Good evening, everybody joining us. Welcome to another episode, a long awaited episode, not long awaited, a long waiting time before we did this episode of
Mhm.
Lakers Detailed. I was out of town for a while, for like 5 days. I went to Maui. Lakers went on vacation. I went on vacation. And so that was nice. Had a nice break. I was talking to Raj offline before we jumped on, and literally, I was telling him the only game that I watched the entire time after the Lakers lost game four was the game seven between Boston and Miami because I was firmly invested in Boston losing that game. And that game, it was, I, that game went crazy. Like I was
Yeah,
shocked that they won the way that they did. But as soon as Jalen Brown started turning the ball over and they were like relying on guys like Marcus Smart to make plays, and you could tell like Tatum's ankle was bothering him. I was like, oh, I don't know if they'll do this. And Miami helped out the Lakers and knocked Boston out of the playoffs. But it was a good vacation. It was much needed. Highly
mhm,
recommended taking a break. Raj, I know you said yourself you took a little bit of like a mental break from
yeah.
everything. I didn't stay completely off Twitter. I read the stuff that was going around, and we have a lot to talk about when it comes to that. But how was your break from the Lakers loss up until today's recording?
It was good. I decompressed. It's
Yes.
funny when you get swept. There's no like shock ending, right? Because like once you go down 3-0, it's kind of like you're already at the end. I congratulated some Denver Nuggets fans after we went down 3-0 because coming back from 3-0 lead just has never happened before, and it's still never happened before because of what happened to Boston. But no, it was nice, man. It went away for a little bit. The finals had a little bit of a break since the between the conference finals, so there was like a 3 or 4 day break between that. Just being able to get away and yeah. But when your season ends like this late, it's nice because summer league's right around the corner. The
Yeah.
draft is in a few weeks. I'll start with this, Renee. So I posted this question on Twitter. I don't know if you saw it, but I asked like, who's the next Aaron Gordon and Andrew Wiggins, kind of, and like,
Yeah.
not saying that they were terrible players, guy in the wrong situation, usage that would thrive on a contending team. And you don't have to answer if you don't want. But I thought it was interesting. What stemmed that question to me was watching that game seven because you said you watched that. Boston has a lot of dudes I feel like who need to be that guy,
Yeah.
but like aren't that guy. You know what I mean? So but I enjoyed every one of Jalen Brown's 8 turnovers. I enjoyed every one of those. There are 8 of them. They were all beautiful, all in
Yeah.
their own way.
Yeah.
Marcus Smart, deciding to take things on his own hands is always a great thing to watch
Always.
in Boston. But I thought, just a nice backdrop to me to go into the summer with. Lakers didn't win, obviously, but Boston losing, kind of heals that,
Nice
heals that heart of
consolation.
them.
I'd imagine if we had a Boston fan up here, they'd probably say the same thing. With as long as the Lakers don't jump ahead of them, it's a nice
Mhm.
consolation. So I get it. Um, Before we continue forward, for the folks that are just tuning in to the live stream via Twitter, Spaces is down, and
Mhm.
I don't know what happened. It literally went down exactly when we were about to launch, and that's why it went down. And so we are firing this up on you. If you're watching this via YouTube or if you're watching this via the live stream function,
Mhm.
Periscope function on Twitter, you can leave a comment, whatever it is, and we'll read the stuff on air. If Spaces does come back, we'll try and relaunch it. But we apologize for the folks that are typically used to hearing just the audio portion that can't tune in. Other thing, which is good news, is if you like to use Twitch, this video pod is now on Twitch too as well. So you can use your Twitch app. If you follow me, I think you could just follow my same Twitter handle, and you should be able to find it. If not, just do it on YouTube for now, and then we'll sort out all that sort of stuff. It's been a long break. I haven't done anything. I haven't done anything with the branding, so I just want to let the folks know. We apologize. Obviously, we don't control Twitter. That's Elon Musk, so you can get mad at him. But
Yep.
it is what it is. We'll try. Hopefully, it'll be corrected sooner than later. But getting back to what we were talking about, yeah, it's a nice consolation to watch Miami go and beat Boston. I think I only posted one tweet, which was Bill Simmons' sad face sitting in that crowd of that game seven. I thought it was wonderful. It just brought me
Yeah.
so much joy to see him miserable. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. But
It was,
now
it was
we have to get back to reality, which is which is what are the Lakers going to do in the offseason? But before we get into that,
Hmm.
Mike Malone complained the entire series against the Lakers about not getting Denver not getting respect or getting coverage
Sure.
as like a potential championship. Like it was all about what are the Lakers going to do, what are the Lakers going to do, all that sort of stuff. And as soon as they sweep us, the first thing LeBron goes out there in his post game, not first thing, but one of the things that LeBron does in his post game is come out there and talk about hinting at retirement or hinting at what he wants to do with his future and all that sort of stuff. Very vague stuff, and that took the entire timeline by storm. That was literally the only thing. Like the conversation about us getting swept completely disappeared from my timeline. All it was about was, is LeBron going to retire? Is he hinting at
Yeah.
retirement? What's going on here? And then I think that was like kind of for the next day and obviously the day afterwards. So I thought that was hilarious. And I think Shell said it, and it's like if that was a planned move by LeBron just to like troll the Nuggets coach and be like, "Watch this, you guys want storylines? Watch what I'm about to do." That would be brilliant. That's brilliant on
Yeah.
Bron's part to be an a-hole and do something like that.
I don't think he did. Look, Mike Malone was absolutely off his, rocker the whole series. Went at D'Angelo Russell to start, and then just as the Nuggets gained more momentum, his quotes just got more and more flagrant. It was just an
Yeah,
interesting thing to watch. Because the players, I mean, like Jamal Murray had some, he had some history with the Lakers, but I mean, Jokic and those guys don't really talk much. Aaron Gordon's
yeah.
probably the most, flamboyant out of them. But like, yeah, and Mike Malone being the one where you have to hate, or I'm seeing like people like, I'm gonna root for the Heat because of Mike Malone. I'm like, I just can't have enough. I don't have enough in me to have a horse in the race with because of the coach of the other team. But no, it was interesting. I don't think LeBron did that, but like LeBron's gonna get attention whatever he does. LeBron could
Yeah.
have said whatever he wanted, and that would have got the attention it did. Nuggets Heat also just doesn't just move people the way the way that probably Lakers Celtics or anything would have. But no, it was interesting. I mean, congrats to Mike Malone. He's finally in the NBA Finals and still complaining about the attention now, and maybe that's just something that he uses to motivate his team. Like it's funny it's funny because you look at it, Mike Malone's complaining about all this attention. Jokic doesn't give one crap about that. Like Jokic does not care, one bit about the attention, or he wants less of it actually. So it's a funny like combination between those two. But no, congrats to them, man. Go get go get the first title for Denver. And hopefully, that gets the attention that they want next season. So we'll see.
Yeah, I thought just the whole. It seemed like he was trying to be like the personality for the team because there really wasn't like Bruce
Yeah.
Brown was like trying to do it too. Like Bruce Brown was
Oh
talking
man.
crazy too, and I get it. Like it's one of those things like as fans, like you try to be humble and you don't try, like you don't
Mhm.
want to test the basketball gods. But sometimes when you're just the better team, you can bully the other team. And I wouldn't say that the Lakers got bullied. Like all of those games were very close. All of those
Yeah.
games were single possession games that came down the wire. We just couldn't execute. And Jokic was, bro. Game 4, he hit. We didn't talk about it because we didn't do a post game for Game 4. But like, dude, he hit when he hit the time expiring fall away
It was
for
over.
three that looks like it's a circus shot, but for like him, apparently is like he's used to taking it. Oh, like bro, we're not winning this game. Like
Yeah.
there's no they're gonna come back. They're gonna hold the lead. We're not gonna win this game. I was like, when shots like that go in, it's just it's just they're in like a different zone, different groove. That's that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But Braun talked about retirement. He talked about not knowing what was going to happen with him going into next season. That he needs to think about. Let's assume he wasn't thinking of Mike Malone when he said he was being honest. Like he was actually being very honest with what he was talking about. He, talked about not knowing where his health is going to be, what his situation is going to be going into next season in terms of that. And then, he doesn't explicitly say, I'm thinking about retiring or something like that, but he's just thinking about his future. That's kind of the way he sort of said it.
Yeah.
And, I thought, after hearing that, and then the next day reading through some of the more clarifications that David McMenamin was offering and Chris Haynes was offering, more detail in regards to what his responses was. I honestly thought, and what Braun was saying is, I don't know when I can be back healthy and in shape because of
Right.
my foot. And I thought he was trying to allude to that. in his post game. He just couldn't say it that way. He couldn't say my foot is fried. I probably have to get surgery. I don't know how long it's going to take for me to rehab. I don't really want to have to force myself to. He's 39 years old. You don't want him to have
Sure.
to go hardcore rehab in the off season if the foot requires surgery, and then have to rush his way back in October, November. Like he's probably like, I'd like to just have to come back in like January. Honestly, I think that's what it is. And so, what was your take on like his thing with the vagueness about retiring and his future and stuff like that?
Yeah, I remember I was live talking about it. I was like, well, I don't really know what to do with this. Like I was not expecting LeBron to come out and be like, yeah, I'm thinking about, like where my head is at and my future with basketball, which is something he's just never said before. My thought about it is he's, signed for another year as well, right? Like he's under contract for another season. I just can't see him walking away from that. Like I can't see it. And maybe just in the heat of the moment in the emotion he was talking about, like he's just probably tired. I mean, this season was probably a drag for him if you think about it. A trade within 13th seed, trying to work your way back up. You have an emotional series against the Warriors, and then you just get bounced. And the playoffs are, have a way of kind of showing you how close or how far you are. You know what I mean? Like it's very revealing in that way. I'm sure LeBron was like, man, if I can't turn the corner here, like, like I'm sure there were like places of vulnerability that he's just never seen before. So I'm sure that that's all, a part of it. I like when I first heard it, I was like, there's no way. And then Dave McMenamin, of course, got the behind the scenes under the cut, under the Batman cave, asked the private question where no one else was listening, obviously, and got the confirmation that it was about retirement. But
Yeah.
I just can't see him, hanging it up now. And look, coming back to January, we can get back to this point, but can the Lakers survive like LeBron James out till January? I'm not sure. Like that puts you in a really tough predicament, which you might be right back where you were this season. Playing team, fighting, having to scratch and claw for every piece of real estate in the standings. That's not a place you want to be. But also, LeBron's going to be 39 at this time,
Yeah.
next year, which is a real conversation that the Lakers need to have. Can LeBron be your offensive engine for a title team? Like that's a real question. But no, I don't think he will. But what'd you think? When you heard it? What was your like reaction to that?
Yeah, so I didn't buy it at all. I was just like, bro, you've told us for like 2 seasons now you want to play with your son, and like
Yeah.
you have like these, and like Bronny's announcement that he's gonna be playing at USC, and his younger son Bryce is also, he just transferred, I think, to Campbell Hall, and like it, like when he retires from the game, okay,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be a spectacle. It's not going to be like we've seen Kobe's retirement, right?
Yeah.
Kobe played 20 years. He didn't have necessarily the same statistical accolades that LeBron did, but he's had several moments. He had so many moments in his career like LeBron. Like it's very, very hard for me to believe that he would go out. And more power to him. If he wants to do it that way, he can do it that way. I just don't see it. You know what I mean? Like you're playing for the Lakers. If you want to retire and you want a farewell season, like you can literally just go to G and look, this is probably going to be my last season. And the fans will take care of the rest. His fans, Laker fans, NBA fans in general. Like it is very hard for me to believe that he would just be like, you know what? I got swept by the Nuggets. And then how unceremonious of an end would it be? I got swept in the Western Conference Finals, even though he came back from injury to help us, get that far in the first place. And for him to just turn around and be like, nah, you know what? I'm done. Like I don't see it, man. So I didn't buy that.
Let me just push back a little bit on that.
Yeah.
The only thing, so I think this year he thought he really had a chance to win the title. Like I believe he believed that. You know what I mean? Last year I don't believe he believed that. And you could tell by look at how many times he rotated on defense last season. Not to be mean to LeBron, it's just like he had no mood to recover on defense or in rotation. Where both of us were in the summer, like LeBron's gonna need to play defense this year, and he did. And that's a big reason why we were went to the third round. But I believe he believed that he could win a title this year, which is why you saw he had a 2020 game, right, where I believe he sat for like 2 minutes. LeBron James sat for 2 minutes or like 20 seconds in a game.
Yeah.
He went for 40 in game 4. I believe he played 45 minutes, something like that in that game. I believe he really thought he could win the title this year. And my question to you, Vinay, what's LeBron? Take out money because he doesn't. Let's be honest, LeBron has the money. The
Right.
Laker contract is great. It's a very fruitful NBA contract. LeBron James makes a ton of money. I'm sure that's not the motivation. Playing with the Sun might be, but I've heard some stuff like maybe Bronny's not a one and done. We don't know. We don't know what his.
Yeah.
So what
Fair.
is his basketball motivation? Because that's where I'm. That's my only like. He has the accolades. He has the leading. He has the. He can't score more points than anybody now because he
Mhm.
leads that. He's at 4 rings, so another ring. I'm sure that's what he's playing for. But like 6 titles would probably be the one that he was kind of reaching for to kind of
Sure.
tie Jordan. What's the basketball motivation for him? I guess to kind of like in your mind, because obviously there's a ton of motivations. But what do you think like would be the biggest? Because I can see where LeBron was like, I'm not saying he's gonna retire. I don't believe that, but I can see where in his head he can have these battles of like, man, I gotta go through another. Training camps is in 3 months.
Right.
Like you know what I mean. I gotta rehab this foot. I gotta do it all again
Yeah.
for maybe a team that's not even going to be the favorite next year because the Lakers
Right.
likely won't be the favorite next year. It'll be Denver or whoever gets the flashy free agent maybe. So, but what do you think about his motivation? I guess as a basketball player to return.
Yeah. I don't think there is. I could see the perspective of him not having a basketball motivation or like an accolade motivation. Like I remember, I did some writing before the Warriors series,
Mm.
and like literally one of the first things I wrote, 'cause people talk about legacy. I was like, look, man, at this point, you either think LeBron's the greatest player of all time, or you think he's second to Jordan. Like I
Exactly.
don't see him ranked anywhere else in any
And 5 rings
mainstream.
isn't chasing that.
Yeah,
Five
right.
rings isn't changing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so I think you've just got two camps of people who are like in those two spaces, and I don't think either of those, like it's almost become like you. I don't want to say you become a character, but like the Skip Bayless thing, like he's had some news recently with Shannon Sharp leaving. Like Skip is never going to change his opinion ever because he's made so much money off
Oh
of
yeah.
being a detractor, and there are people who want to be in the basketball media space that have taken those positions. Like they're like, even if, when he retires, all of that stuff's going to change. They're going to be like, this guy's the most amazing player I've ever seen. Like even his biggest detractors are going to be like, no, this guy 20 years, 21 years,
Yep.
however much stuff. But to answer your original question, like I don't know. Like I don't know if there's a basketball. Like I don't think any more championships is going to. I don't think anybody's going to convert. You know what I mean? From being a Jordan stan to becoming a LeBron stan if you win 6. Honestly, like if I was a Jordan stan, I'd be like, yeah, it took you twice as many times attempts to get to it. You know what I mean? Like that's the way they would probably
No,
make that
sure.
argument. And so for me, it's like uh, he probably doesn't. He doesn't need the money. You're right about that. But I think he does care about how his story ends. I think that
Sure.
matters. So if he doesn't have a basketball reason for it, and if the writing is on the wall for him, in terms of like, you know what, I don't think there's any version of this team or any version of the Lakers, like with him and Anthony Davis and him at his age and with the role players and stuff like that. Looks like if there's no version of it where he thinks that he can compete for a championship, I think he still does want to have an honorable end to his story, right? Like when Kobe got the reason why it's cosmic is because we knew when Kobe tore his Achilles, he was done. There was no coming back from because of his age and because of the type of injury he suffered. And we just knew that even when Genie gave him that contract, famously people are very upset about him getting the $50 million extension. Like, but we knew that this is thank you for what you've done. You've done it
Right.
for 20 years. We know we're not going to be good, you know. But your final season is going to be an honorable end for you at a basketball. And I had season tickets at the time. I can tell you, even from behind the scenes, my tickets were going resale were going for crazy amounts of money. I'm talking about games that like you would not even pay $100 to watch, like against
Mhm.
like the Kings when they were bad. Like those games were going for enormous amounts of money because people knew what was coming. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and I think if there's no basketball reason for it, like maybe he's telling the truth. Playing with Bronny is not really that big of a deal anymore because he doesn't want to, whatever it is. It doesn't mean that much to Bronny, or it doesn't mean as much as people think. Like maybe for him having the honorable end to his career, if it's in a Laker jersey or if it's something else. Like I can't. People are like, oh, maybe he'll go back to Cleveland and then retire. I was like, he's gonna ask the Lakers to trade him back to Cleveland. Like I don't see
Right.
that. Like
Yeah.
you take the ceremonial end. You'll probably sign, maybe you sign like a 1-day contract or something like that, and then retire as a Cavalier if you want. I just he just strikes me too much. Like Kobe was like that too, dude. Like the way the story is written, like Kobe wanted to dictate the way the story was going to be written for him.
He
so
wrote the
bad.
story.
Yeah. And so even his very last game, right? Like I'm shooting 40 times or whatever to get 60 points, something ridiculous. So it's just like, even if that has lessened the thirst for the championship, or he's just come to sort of a realization about his own basketball mortality, like I think that he still wants that story written in a very honorable way. And there has to be a build up to it. Like he has to start hinting at it if he thinks it's coming. So now the eyeballs go like this, and then once it is kind of announced, then we'll know.
Right. And also, like, just to that point, he had a documentary crew following him this season. That's why, like, but I really think he thought he was doing it this year.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly thought, and we even said like they had a good shot. I mean, they got outscored by 24 by Denver total in that series. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Denver just beat Miami by like double figures last night. You know, so like, I mean, just look at the difference in terms of how those games went. But I think the issue here, and I guess we can continue on because obviously with the LeBron conversation, this all is a part of it. Kobe was on a team where he had a number 2 pick with him, right?
Mm-hmm.
D'Angelo Russell was a number 2 pick. I believe that was his first year. And then Jordan Clarkson as well, right? And then Julius Randle. So we knew the deal. Like the Lakers weren't contending that season.
Yeah.
That's not what next season for this Lakers team is. And that's where to me is so fascinating. If this is LeBron's farewell tour, it's coinciding with the time where the Lakers have a 31-year-old or 30-year-old Anthony Davis, right?
Yeah.
And they're about to go pay Austin Reeves, pay Rui Hachimura, do whatever. Like this next year is also a winning time, like type of season. So that's where it's interesting to me, like those conversations of what LeBron needs around him versus what the Lakers need moving forward. I think that's so interesting to me. And this is where LeBron's decision here, he said he's going to take some time to decide. Like how does that coincide with what they're going to do in the draft with the free agent? So like I think LeBron's going to come back. I just think like there are valid reasons why he would think about, hey, like do I want to put my body through that, because this is a grueling series to put his body through Memphis, through the Warriors, and now have to do it again for a whole regular season. And is that sustainable to a team where he's going to be making the max? You know what I mean? Like that's a salary spot that's filled. Like LeBron coming back in January, that's a team that's going to be handicapped trying to win without him. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is there, but I guess my question to you, how does that fit in, I guess, with the Lakers' goals next season? Like if LeBron comes and says, I don't think he's going to, but like if he comes out and says this is my last season, how's that, I guess, coincide with what the Lakers' goals are? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those are conflicting kind of things there where, LeBron can still be good in his final year, but you kind of know what the deal is in the dude's final year.
Yeah.
Like if you have a contending team with that, I don't know how those things mix.
Yeah, so I remember historically, like when Kobe's thing happened, we tried to recruit new guys. Like we tried to, even after, like we tried to recruit free agents. And then when it sort of became clear that we weren't getting those free agents, like Melo didn't want to come, LaMarcus didn't want to play center, but ended up playing center for the Spurs anyways. Like when all that sort of stuff sort of happened, like it was sort of clear that like the Lakers had no choice but to go in a certain direction, because we've talked about it a long time ago. Like Kobe cast a large shadow over the franchise, and there was only going to be like, you had to either have like 10 years of bad basketball. We had like 4 years or 5 years of bad basketball with the young crew or the young guys, the young core, or somebody of equal or even greater stature as what Kobe is to basketball, the NBA, would have to be the person that took up the mantle, right? And that ended up being LeBron for us. And we quickly switched gears towards becoming a more competitive franchise and competing. So it's like that we knew what the situation was in that. In this situation, it's not the same thing. We already have Anthony Davis, right? We already have a guy who looks like he can be a productive player in Rui Hachimura. Austin Reeves looks like he can be productive. D'Angelo Russell, even outside of the Denver series, can be a productive player. He is a second round pick, or sorry, second overall pick. we're not as talent depleted as we were when Kobe was there, right? Like we had like Jeremy
Sure.
Lin and Nick Young, and it's just like it's a ragtag group of people that were on that team. Um, so it's easier to build a foundation if LeBron does quietly decide to say that to the franchise, or if he does say that, openly and announce it out. Um, if he does announce it out, I think it also takes a lot of heat off of the franchise for that season, because people will
Sure.
be like, look, he's not going to be here. We don't even know how much effort he's going to put into the season. Being fair, like I don't think he would cheat the game, but at the same time, like you said, he's not going to tear his body apart in the final season when he knows he's going to retire. So it's like I've had more confidence about how we would move afterwards,
Mm.
if he does take that decision. I just don't see it. It seems too abrupt of something. And honestly, if he did do it, and if I'm completely wrong, and he does end up going and saying, you know what, this is gonna be my final season, not next season, but the season after, or
Sure.
like he's just gonna play out his contract and that's gonna be it. Like that would be like the way I would see him. He might, like, that would be something that I think we will know like well in advance. Like it won't be something
Mhm.
that just be sprung on us the way it was. Or no, it's not really sprung. Like we knew with Kobe. I think we'll know with LeBron too as well. But I like that we're more set. Like
Ready.
we have
Yeah.
another star there, right? When Kobe was gone, we didn't have anybody. We didn't know what direction we were going in.
Hmm.
So it's a little bit different for sure.
Sure. And look, LeBron's probably the most calculated player ever, and
For
he's
sure.
not going to go 20 years and then not capitalize on his final season, right?
Yeah.
Not monetize has weird connotations to it, but monetize, capitalize, whatever on his final situation. So
He
no, I'm
he is
with you.
a he is a brand. When he is done with basketball, he is still one of the
Sure.
biggest basketball brands in the
Oh yeah.
in the world. So like, and the theory that I prescribe to is the one I think people have shared. Like 2025 is the All Star game in LA. If he's still in the Laker jersey, like that is, you might as well, if you're gonna leave, if you're gonna call it quits and you're thinking about it, like that's probably the season to do it, because it'll be all LeBron the whole season and the
Oof.
All Star game and everything. And that's that would be the way to do it if he really wants to just be done after these next two contracts, next
Sure,
2 years.
man.
Sorry.
2025 is crazy. He'd be what, 40 years old, going out there. But he looked fine. I mean, that's the part that like you said, when Kobe was going, you could tell. Like I went to a game. They played the Wizards at home. I went to that game. Had to go to at least one of those final Kobe games, and we got killed by the Wizards, but like, you know what I mean?
For
So,
sure, for sure. Yeah.
but yeah, so you kind of knew the deal that season, and like Kobe was out there chucking shots as he should have been, not one fan had like, hey, what do you do? Like, no one said that. No one said, give the ball to
Nope.
D'Lo Moore. Nobody said that. They're like, we get the deal. John Wall, Bradley Beal took us to the woodshed, but yeah, like with this, LeBron looked fine, I thought, but the thing to me, even it's the regular season. It's getting through that hump,
It's a
right?
slog.
Getting through that slog. We're seeing guys in their prime being like, yeah, I'm gonna take off a month. Kawhi's a special case, but even Paul George is missing a ton of time in the
Mhm.
regular season. I talked to you offline about like maybe Kevin Durant has to take some time. Like these are
Yep.
guys like, a lot younger. So I'm just interested in that and seeing like how that can sustain. But I think LeBron's can go as long as he wants to. And I'm with you. I don't think the end is next year. I do think it was interesting to hear him talk about the end, because I think
Yeah.
that's like the first time I've heard him say it in such a like imminent place. Like he's talked about, when I'm done, I want to own a team and yada yada. But he's never talked about to me like in terms of it being an imminent situation, that's the part I thought was interesting for him.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, like, the other thing is also like Anthony Davis's player option coincides exactly the same year that like LeBron's does,
Mm,
and there are other players around the league who have free agency that ties in like the very same offseason that he would potentially be retired from the league. So it's like, from a business standpoint, if he's also deciding that he doesn't want to do it, like just tell, if he'll tell the Lakers and whatnot what it is, so that we can plan accordingly. But again, like, if there's one thing this franchise knows how to do, we know how to roll out the red carpet for you.
yep.
And if and when he decides to do it, I think everybody will everybody will know, you'll know what it is, and there will be a lot of fanfare and pomp and all that sort of stuff when it comes to him, because he is,
Deserve it.
arguably the greatest player of all time. He's going to have a scoring record that's probably never going to get touched, just because guys aren't playing for 20 plus years anymore. They're low, like you said, they're load managing in year 5. So I can hardly imagine those players playing until year 20. So, but that we'll see what happens. We'll see what
Yeah.
happens with the surgery, if he even gets it, if he needs to get it, all that sort of stuff. Lakers are physically recuperating. But Laker fans have already moved on to the offseason.
Yes.
And they didn't waste any time discussing who has to come back. While I was on vacation, I did see many, many tweets about solutions to how the Lakers can get back to the title.
Yep.
And I wrote something for Complex, and I just, if you got a chance to read it, it's fine. If not, don't worry about it. But it's the gist of it was just you have to bring everybody back from an asset management standpoint, and that's probably a good disclaimer to do before we go into the section. From an asset management standpoint, the best thing that the Lakers can do is bring everybody back at a reasonably priced extension or contract. Obviously, the reasonably priced part is very subjective, depending on which fan you ask. And I'm sure you and I will get into that too as well. But from an asset management perspective, you want to bring everybody back because the Lakers are not in any position to let guys go and create enough cap space to be competitive against teams that have, that can trade for a player. And so for the folks that are like, oh, I'd like to get Kyrie, and we'll get into those rumors too, because there's a few names that have been floated out there. I'm like, bro, like, what are we doing? Like the Kyrie thing, we don't have $40 million to give him. And Dallas is going to offer him $40 million. So we're not in a competitive space. Like he'd have to take an actual pay cut of like $10 million or maybe even $12 to $13 million to come to the Lakers. And so it's just, you have to try and bring back everybody you can at a reasonable cost. And, we can get into it now. The offseason is important. And I think the two highest priorities for the Lakers, the two first discussions that need to happen are Austin Reeves' extension and Rui Hachimura's new contract. We know with Austin, for the folks that don't know, Austin Reeves is Gilbert Arenas provisioned. He's a Gilbert Arenas provision limited player, which means that his first 2 years are limited to a certain amount of money, which is, let's just say $12 million. $12 million. Round up.
Yep.
So his first 2 years his salary cap can't be more than $12 million. The third and fourth year, if he does sign a deal that's a 4-year deal, it can be up to whatever his max is. Which can go to an extraordinary number, like $30 million a year. So the overall total deal size that he can get is very large, depending on how it is. And so if there's a team out there that thinks he's worth $80 million, they can offer that to them. And when they sign him, and if the Lakers decide to let him go, then it's, let's just say it's even. It's 20 for 4 years. But for the Lakers, if they decide to match that contract, it would be 12 million. Then 80 minus 24 is like 56. So you divide 56 by 2 and then split that for the final 2 years. That's how much.
Right.
So like the cap hit is a little bit different, but the Lakers have an advantage because those first 2 years are capped from how it hits our salary cap. But Austin Reeves, I think, is the number one priority. He was the best guard for the Lakers the entire playoffs. He is the only ball handling player not named LeBron James that could not get played off the floor or have his inability to do something used against him. Dennis was probably the second, I would say, because his defense was still very helpful in all 3 series. But Austin was our best guard, which is insane hearing that for a second-year player. But he has to be addressed. Where are you with Austin? The Lakers can offer him $51 million, but he's probably going to get more than that out on the open market. Do you match anything that he gets? What is your thoughts on that?
I'm gonna break news right now. You can quote Woj, you can quote Shams. Austin Reeves will be a Laker next year. Like I can guarantee that at least. The other guys, I don't have as much. You know more about the the cap stuff about that than me. But Austin, I can guarantee will be back. His number. Look, do I think some team's gonna throw $100 million at Austin Reeves? I don't. Like I don't think a team is doing. People don't live in the real. Like these are real. This isn't 2K. Like some GM has to go to their owner and be like, hey, I'm gonna throw $100 million at a guy who had. I loved Austin, and we watched him every day, so we have an even closer appreciation for what he's done. But like, that's not how NBA contracts work. Like, that's just not how things work. So I think people are asking the 90 and 100. I'd be shocked if he gets 90 or 100. I'd be shocked. I still think I would, match that because you talked about not just the asset keeping as an asset of a contract. Just like that's the type of guy you invest in. I mean,
Sure.
I think people understand how rare it is for like a second year undrafted guard to be your go-to offensive option. Like that's it's not stuff that happens normally. And that the stuff that and the people who have that happen to, those are like one of the really, those are all-stars later on. Like that's just the path that those guys go on. Like those game 1 against Memphis, the game 6 against the Warriors, all the big shots throughout the series. Even like I'm sad this will get lost, Vinay, but he had a bunch of big shots against Denver. Like that will get thrown. It'll get thrown out because they lost all those games.
Yeah.
But go back and watch game 1 through game 4.
Yeah.
Every like big 3 that the Lakers needed, that was Austin Reeves hitting every single one of them. Step backs, off the dribble, off ball screens.
Which one was it where Austin was it game 2 or game 3 where
Game
Austin
2.
hit 2 threes in a row off of the ghost screen action with Bron, and then Bron, we were all very upset that Bron took the ISO 3 over Murray. But you're absolutely right, dude.
Yes.
Like game 1 against Memphis, he closes out Memphis. They just go to him every single play. Like Rui goes crazy off the bench, and then he just he's had too many moments. Like he had the cross on Steph, the behind the back cross on Steph, and then I forgot what game that was. And it's just like he's had too many moments this season or this postseason where he's just kind of, and even in the regular season where he's just kind of been like our best player or our best guard on the floor. And so I'm with you. I do know for a fact that Jeannie loves him. Like Jeannie really likes him because I think it's just. He's a young kid. You could tell he's like very like, I don't want to say naive because he's an adult. It's like talking about him like he's a little kid, but it's like you see him. I don't know if you've seen his parents like sit in the crowd and stuff like that. They're very like regular people. They're very nice people. He's very well spoken. He's a very nice guy. Like he's great, and he steps up. He's not afraid of the limelight. The Dallas thing, he'll get up in somebody's face if you're talking trash to him. Like he doesn't back down. I would imagine they match him. Shell had a question here in the chat. He was asking, like, does he get a deal? Does somebody offer him a deal in the $90 to $100 million range? I don't see it. I think that's too. I don't think there's any GM out there that's bold enough to do that and be like, because once you pay somebody that much money, at that average salary, that's like your feature guy. You're talking about a guy who's like your second best player on the team, and I don't see a team doing that. It is what it is.
I don't either. I love that you brought up Jeannie, and like this isn't a huge part of it, but no matter where Jeannie goes in an interview, she gets asked about Alex Caruso. And the Alex Caruso tax on this is a real thing. That's a legit
the specter of Alex Caruso.
The ghost specter, the tax, you know what I mean? Like that's something that's definitely a part of this. And you brought, his likability, his marketability and all that. He's having billboards in LA now. But I think the playoff, that's why I like that this season, Vinay, was really close to us again, having very little answers. If Minnesota playing game, we lose that. Do we win against OKC? Maybe. But like if we were out in the playing game, even as good as the season Austin had, as much as Rui stepped up in the regular season, as good of a however many games D'Lo played, like you wouldn't have very many answers to me. And I feel like that was the great part of the playoffs was like, oh, Austin's not just good. He's like legit good. He's like, we can pick on matchups in the playoffs good. Like that level of good is something you only know when you get to a postseason. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm going to break it here. Renee on Lakers Detailed. Austin Reeves will be a Los Angeles Laker next year. You can, quote me on that. You can kill me if that doesn't happen, but I'll guarantee that at this point.
Yeah. From what I've heard, I feel pretty good about his chances too, as well. It's for the folks that I know, I'm not connected, but folks that I know that are connected, that's been the general. It's been the same. It's been a pretty consistent buzz all season, even when we had Russ on the team before he got they even internally really like him. He's a sponge. Braun likes him. AD likes him. It is what it is. I'm glad that I don't think there's really a walkaway point for the Lakers when it comes to it, but I'm sure they'll be reasonable. I don't think Austin is walking into that negotiation saying, give me $100 million off rip. Like, I think he's probably like, this is what I'd like. What can you get? What can you guys get me? And stuff like that. We'll see. So that brings us to Rui, who was up and I wouldn't say he was up and down. I would say he was probably like inconsistently utilized because he's still unknown commodity for Darvin Ham. comes into the playoffs, completely bursts onto the scene. He's part of some of our most effective lineups in the entire playoffs consistently. And you know, his scoring off the bench was huge. But his number, you know, it's been reported that there might be an upper ceiling, an upper limit on what his number might end up being. That number's come out to about 20 million. I know from what I've heard that the number that he was offered by the Wizards was about 12 million, like the non-taxpayer MLE, which is kind of low, I would say, for a guy his size, his skill set. Rebounding, like, is not like the greatest defender, but he's a burly defender. So you can play him on a, you know, we played him on Jaren Jackson Jr. We played him on Jokic at times and played Anthony Davis off of him. We also were able to play him at center against Draymond or against Looney at times and whatnot. He stepped up in many ways, and was doing whatever the Lakers asked him to do, guard guys that he had no business guarding, and to make things work. I don't necessarily disagree with the $20 million walkaway number. I don't think it should be as hard fast as that, especially considering some of these other guys we may not be on the roster with him at that number. But I think somewhere around, like, if he turned down 12 million, like, I think somewhere around, like, if you can get him somewhere between 15 and 18 or 16 and 18 million, I think that's a really nice number to get him at. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if him and Austin got very, very similar deals to each other. Like, Austin got like like the 15 million a year, and Rui got like maybe 16 or 18 million a year. What do you think about that number?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think Rui is fascinating because he's also already got his second contract, right? Like, I believe he already got his second contract with Washington. I forgot what the exact
I'll double
number.
check. Yeah, as you're talking.
Yeah. But yeah, like, so his number is interesting to me. I think he's definitely the second priority. Here's what I was looking at, Vinay. So again, I'm gonna reference that tweet that I talked about, like, who's the next Andrew Wiggins, who's the next Aaron Gordon, and Rui Hachimura. Obviously, Laker fans flooded Rui gifts into that tweet, but like, I think Rui is a legit answer there. Here's Aaron Gordon's contract, by the way. I don't think people realize 4-year 92 extension with Denver. 4 years 92. That's 23 a year.
Yeah,
that's the
cost. Which was considered at the time. Some people thought that was an overpay for him, like, for a guy limited shooter. Clearly, like a Al-Farouq Aminu type of guy that just defends, you know, and versatile defender and rebounder. But go ahead, yeah.
Right. And so but to me, that's like the cost, right? And look, the Warriors, Andrew Wiggins, 4 years, 109 million extension, right? So, like, to me, that's the cost of what these guys are. Now, I'm not saying Rui's as good as them. He might not be. Like, he might not be as versatile as Aaron Gordon defensively. Might not have the bet. Andrew Wiggins has a little bit more fluidity in his offensive game in terms of being able to hit floaters and stuff. Whatever. This is the cost of what big scoring, versatile wings is. This is what they cost in the NBA to me. So, like, I know 20 million might be their bar, but like you said, the Lakers don't gain anything by penny pinching Rui Hachimura, or you know what I mean? Like, they don't gain anything with that. So, like, to me, I think he's another guy you have to kind of bring back, and I want to see him in a full training camp. He's a guy that I want to see given a little bit more light. He got benched. He was off the bench in some situations, and they finally started him at the end of the Denver series, which I think both of us wanted a little bit earlier, but yeah, like, and I think he's a guy that likes the situation. I think he loves LA, as Shell pointed out in the chat here, and I think he likes working with Phil Handy, and all that stuff kind of goes out the window when contract negotiations come up. But I think he does like it here. I think that's an advantage, and another guy that showed, like, I don't, like, if you're not going to guard me, I'm going to be aggressive. I can score, I can shoot, I can also defend, I can rim protect. And those, like, two-way dudes, they're expensive. Like, I just gave the numbers: 23 million for Aaron Gordon, 4 year, 109 for Andrew Wiggins, whatever that is. I think it's over 25 a year. That's the cost of what these guys cost. So but what do you think about that?
Yeah, so I agree with you in terms of the importance of the player. I think they didn't know what they really had with Rui until the playoffs. And when he kind of came out and he was super aggressive scoring wise, because he was aggressive in a way that, like, he wasn't even aggressive in the regular season. Like, he just came out guns blazing. Game 1, he puts up 29, like, immediately. He says, okay, if you're going to leave me wide, and it wasn't even like the first half. He did it in the second half. He's like, all right, if you're going to leave me wide open, I'm just going to shoot this ball every single time. And we know that he passes up threes to take, like, those mid-range long twos and stuff like that, because that's what he likes to do. I think him and Austin, the reason why they stood out also, aside from them being productive players, is because they were fantastic in the very area that in the playoffs you have to be great at, which was the mid range. And the Lakers don't have mid range shooters like that. And in theory, we have some guys, but they really stood out, and Rui was one of those guys that stood out. There's another layer to this that I think people aren't discussing, and it actually rolls directly into this thing with LeBron, where if you and I are guessing, or if I'm guessing correctly, and LeBron is trying to tell the Lakers that you need to have a good enough team that can survive me not playing until maybe December or January, Rui functions as insurance for LeBron, at least on the offensive and rebounding side. And if LeBron's going to miss games, if he's got to take 10 games off because his body's taxed or whatever it is, like Rui is a natural, and we've talked about this many times, even in the series previews that we did in the postseason. Rui is a natural sub for LeBron, for the role that you have LeBron play when you already have a traditional point guard on the roster. We had D'Lo at the time. So if you're going to have, you have to, if you think of him in that manner, when LeBron goes out, we need to have somebody who can score and keep the scoring afloat. Then Rui makes a lot of sense. And, I remember we had a conversation and I asked you, we discussed comps. Everybody says his comp is Kawhi. I said, there's some stuff like his shot
stylistically.
Stylistically, his shot preference is like Kawhi, but he's not technically sound the way Kawhi is offensively. But some of his game reminds me of Tobias Harris. And I keep thinking to myself that if we had Tobias Harris on this team, he would be a natural sub for LeBron. Like the post-up isolations he does, he spaces out the floor, shoots threes. Rui's three was actually a surprise. And so my thing is this is not just an extension conversation for Rui. And I think Jordan mentioned it in the chat. This is actually his second contract. So this is the first important one that he's getting. He's coming off of his rookie sale contract. Obviously, he's going to try to get as much money as he possibly can. And I think the Lakers have full intention of keeping him. Landing him at 15, 16, or that 16 to $20 million range, I think that's fine. Especially if you consider him as that insurance for LeBron. At least we know he can come in and he can score from everywhere. So we can we have a guy that we can rely on. Kuz was that guy for the Lakers before we let him go. When LeBron sat out games, Kuz would just come in guns blazing. He just shoot everywhere. And I think that role works for Rui. That's that second layer that I think that the fans should consider, that the front office should consider. And I think that's important. And the third layer, I was about to say it, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, sorry. The third thing I would consider, which I told to you offline, is an obstacle, I think, is you have to pay him if you want him to come off the bench. You can't not pay him. And then you get what I mean? It was okay because Vando and him are on rookie scale deals. And you could bring Rui off the bench, but as soon as you pay Rui, let's say he's very gracious about a $15 million a year deal. That's a home run for the Lakers if we can get him at $15 million. You have to start him, or you have to pay him to come off the bench and be your sixth starter, right? The Clippers did this with Marcus Morris for a while before he was inserted in. You can't just you can't be I don't want to pay you, and I don't want you to start so you can build more value for yourself. This is the Kuz thing all over again. And so they have to, if you think about those three things, it makes sense to pay him. He's good insurance for LeBron. If he's willing to come off the bench, even at that number, and be the guy that leads us, look, just pay him, bring him back. We know he can play in the playoffs. That matters.
Yeah, I think he can start. My only pushback with the bench thing is that I'm glad you brought up Kuz, because the exact same situation. Kuz was asked about this. He's like, why aren't you? He's like, why didn't you start? And he's like, well, I'm playing behind LeBron James and Anthony Davis. You know what I mean? So I think Rui would kind of understand that. But I get your point. I remember he got benched in the one game I go to. He got benched in that Chicago game, and I'm like, where's Rui Hachimura? And they're playing Lonnie Walker at small forward. But yeah, and I remember he talked about, he's like, yeah, I'm not sure why I got benched, but I guess it was to teach me a lesson. So I'm sure that type of stuff sits with him. But I love that you brought the LeBron, insurance thing, because in the Denver series, again, no one's going to care anymore because we lost 4-0. But we put Rui on Jokic. That was like the story game one, which Mike Malone was pissed off about. But the reason it was the story because it worked. Like
It worked.
It was
worked.
working.
Yeah.
The Lakers just could not score. That was the problem in that series. But yeah, like instead of LeBron on Jokic, they went Rui on Jokic, right? To give LeBron a little bit of a physical break there. And I just love that versatility with them. I think LeBron, AD, and Rui, like there's some jump shooting concerns to me with that as a starting three. Your guards better be knockdown guys, or you need a lot to you need some to make up for that. But I think George put in the chat that he's a psychopath. A lot of guys, to me, like you can tell, some shy away from the lights and some of them embrace them. And he's another guy just like Austin. Those two, it's why we're talking about both of them right here. They absolutely embrace the lights. Both of them did. And I think that's important. I think in the playoffs, it's extremely important. Miami's and Cody Martin's actually not a free agent, but like Cody Martin, you see him like just absolutely embrace, the lights. And I think finding players that do that, and you don't know those answers until the playoffs. You just don't. You have some idea in the regular season. The NBA just does not have enough marquee regular season games anymore to where you can find that out about players. And I think in the playoffs, it really shows. So again, 15 million, 20 million. I think like you're not splitting hairs. It's $1 million hairs there. But like, I still think like if that's his cap, I'm comfortable with that. I think he's also 25 years old. And like he's young. I think he's younger than Kuzma, or is he as old as Kuzma? I'm not sure, but and Kuz is about to get like a $30 million deal. If you're just going to compare those two, like he's about to get a bag from Washington or whoever. I think Washington's going to pay him. But...
And they weren't a good team, so Kuz knew I just got to go put up points and put up my stats, and so that way I can ask for the salary. And so it's like, without revealing too much behind the scenes information, like that was the motivation behind Kuz, the trade. Like it was part of the motivation of why we traded KCP. Like I know a lot of people are like, Russ was a terrible trade, and for sure it was. The basketball fit didn't work and stuff like that. But there was a part of that, a unspoken part of that trade. The Lakers knew that they had gotten KCP and Kuz on very favorable deals after they won the championship. But both KCP and Kuz both knew that they didn't want to continue playing for Lakers if the Lakers weren't going to pay them. And they wanted to go to places where they could get opportunities to do that. Kuz very specifically, like he was stuck. He was never going to get more than 20 million from the Lakers because he was always going to be playing behind LeBron James and Anthony Davis. His stats were never going to justify it. So he had to go somewhere else. He goes to Washington, balls out. Now he's even more. He's looked at like as like this core guy that can be a cornerstone. Like I don't necessarily agree that he is, but they see him like that. Some folks may see him like that in Washington. So it's that kind of stuff matters. Like the business 100%. Of basketball matters. I'm not saying teams go out of their way to suppress the value of the player, but like when you're in a contract negotiation, what's stopping Rob Pelinka from saying, well, you only average like 9 points a game or 12 points a game. Why should I pay you $30 million off of potential in case LeBron gets hurt? But in this situation, the Lakers should consider that because like LeBron may get hurt or he may not be able to come back.
Not just that, like, again, it's so funny because Kuz and Rui kind of started on opposite ends of the spectrum, right? Like Kuz started on the situation that Rui's in now. So he doesn't know any better. He's like, yeah, let me go average my 20 a game. And he did that. Congrats to him. Average of 20 of the game. Efficiency, we can talk about that somewhere else. But like average is 20 a game, and he's about to get the bag from Washington, who's about to pay Porzingis as well. I don't know what they're doing over there, but whatever. He's about to get his money. But I'm sure Rui's like, I was there. Like that was miserable. Like there's a new high draft pick every year. Sometimes they draft my own position, which doesn't
make any sense. Yeah,
doesn't make any sense. I'm getting a few shots a game. I still average 15, and they still won't pay me.
Yeah,
and we're losing every game. Like and so like I'm sure, and I'm not saying Rui's gonna take pay cuts or anything. I'm just like he was in that situation, and I don't think like him smiling every single time is an accident. Like I think he really enjoys like being on a winning situation, being a part of a team that had a chance to win. So I think those are just fascinating comparisons. And like I look at Andrew Wiggins in Minnesota, I look at Aaron Gordon in Orlando, and I look at Rui Hachimura in Washington. I think those are case by case where they're different players, but I think those situations match. And I'm not comparing him to those guys. It's just like I think you put a guy in a new situation, that they're more acceptable to stay under more favorable contracts at the team. Absolutely. I think. Yeah. So I'm not going to confirm. I'm not going to guarantee Rui Hachimura's back like Austin Reeves, but I would be. Would you be shocked if Rui's? I would be shocked if Rui's gone. Like I don't think they're gonna
Very
They're
shy.
not going. Yeah, like I don't think he's tradable anyway because he would be signed in off season. But like I would be shocked if Rui Hachimura is not a Laker next year.
Yeah,
I think that would be surprising to me.
for sure. Yeah, like if I'm like 100% sure Austin's coming back, I'd be like 90% sure,
Yeah.
95% sure Rui would be back too
Hmm.
with the Lakers, but who knows? So continuing on, those two guys are big priorities. The next guy we have was also a big fan favorite. People didn't realize how good he was. You and I were on top of it early, and I was extremely happy. He was the guy that I was most happy to get in the trade that we got him, Jared Vanderbilt. Obviously, in the
Mm,
playoffs, his offensive limitations hurt the Lakers. It's not something that's new. It's not something specific to the Lakers. It was also an issue with Minnesota. Before the regular season, he was phenomenal.
mm,
Defensively, chasing guys around. We had him tag Steph in the regular season game. He is very clearly a defensive specialist that can rebound. And he cuts, he does all that hustle stuff. So you have to deploy him in that manner. Lakers use
mm,
him in more of a general, consistent rotation fashion. Again, I think Ham was trying to figure it out because he didn't know what he was going to get out of some of these guys in certain
yeah.
situations, and then just tried to play whatever the best hand was. Obviously, Vanderbilt got benched like towards the end of the Warriors series, and then the shifting priorities. Like they went with the small lineup in game one, and then went back to Vanderbilt, and like I
Hmm.
said, all those games. It's a 4-0 sweep, but if you didn't watch the series, you wouldn't realize how close all those games really were all the way through. But guaranteeing Vanderbilt's contract, very minuscule, about $5 million, rounding up.
Yeah.
Um, he is a durable player. He's willing to do the dirty work. He's willing to do the stuff that LeBron and Anthony Davis physically just don't have the energy to do on top of what their current responsibilities are. They have to bring him back. How he gets used, whether he's a starter, a defensive specialist off the bench, he is a wing size player that will do wing size defense and can defend wing size guys, not the big burly dudes, but more like the agility, very agile
Wings.
players and
Hmm.
stuff like that. And he's actually pretty good at chasing around certain, even smaller guards and whatnot. Very disciplined. Did a great job on Ja for a good stretch of those games. They need to bring him back, if nothing
Yep.
else, to preserve the bodies in the regular season. I don't think there should be any confusion about that.
I don't like the way we sometimes talk about some of these players, because like we just throw away everything they did. They're like, I hear some people like, Jared Vanderbilt should come back with a jump shot. Do you know how expensive Jared Vanderbilt would be with a jump? Like, he's not on your team with like
Yeah,
a jump shot. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, so it'd be nice if he can hit a left corner three once in a while. I'd like that.
yeah,
Those players are extremely expensive. There's a reason he makes $5 million a year, and I think he's still underpaid with that. But those guys are not only important for the regular season. I think his just like the mentality that he brings, the playing hard, the culture kind of setter of
for
I'm
sure.
gonna I'm gonna pick up full court. That stuff is important to me, and like that type of stuff we threw him on Steph, we threw him on John Morant for a whole series basically. Our adjustment in the Warriors series was throwing him on
Draymond.
Draymond so that
Yeah.
like the pick and roll was easier to defend. Like this type of stuff are important. And I thought Jeremy Vanderbilt was a big part of why we're as far as we were. LeBron missed the final month of that season
Hmm.
of the regular season, and he was a big part of that. So no, I think it's no question. I'm not sure if he'll get like package. I'm not like I don't know how you never know in free agency what things open up. So if his salary has to be balanced to be thrown, but it's also so small of like it's so small of like a contract that I don't think he'll be thrown in. But yeah, I hope he's back next season. I think he's a guy that can come off the bench, that can start and play a bunch of different variety of roles for the team. He's not an offensive player. Like that's clear. Like he's not a guy
Very
that's
clear.
gonna,
Yeah.
he's not gonna he shouldn't be. I think he has some passing skills though, like that can be used a little bit. I think he's a
Hmm.
better passer than people think. He can't finish at the rim at all. That's something that he needs to.
That was very bizarre to see. Like I thought he started off with us. He started off really good. Like he was dunking, finishing plays, finishing layups, and then like as the season went on, he got like worse and worse at it. And I was just like, what is going on? Like it's very
Yeah.
bizarre to see it. But yeah, yeah, I agree.
Um, yeah. So like I think like the finishing, maybe he has to work on at least the left hand finishing, right? Finish with your strong hand at least
Yeah,
at the rim, and he bobbled a lot of passes. That's something he can get better at. I don't think next season he's gonna come in and drill shots. Like don't expect
yeah,
Vanderbilt to come back with a catch. He's like 2 months to train before the playoff, like before the next season starts. Don't expect him to come back with like a regular season jump shot, but. I think he's just a really helpful player, especially in the regular season where motor matters and all that stuff. Like he's
Absolutely.
I think he'll really help there. So again, I wouldn't be shocked if he's gone, but I think like more than likely he's another guy that they're just like he was a good guy in the locker room, good plays hard as hell, and is really good on defense. Like let's bring him back.
Yeah, no, I agree. So continuing onwards, so we've gotten through Austin, Rui, Jared. So now we're going to get into the very tricky territory of,
Oh man.
we have to sort of have uncomfortable conversations. So we know who the most uncomfortable conversation is going to be about, or not uncomfortable, but like the volatile conversation. So I'm going to save him for last.
Mm,
But there are two players that we have on the roster: Malik Beasley, who basically, after the Memphis series, never saw the floor really much after he got
mm-hmm.
benched, and Mo Bamba, who we didn't see at all in the playoffs with a mysterious ankle injury, was supposedly supposed to be available for Game 4, but Tristan Thompson somehow got the reps in Game 4. And again, when we did the season preview, I think against Memphis, I said, look, they didn't sign Tristan for no reason. Like he's gonna see the floor, like
You're
at
right.
some point. And unfortunately, and he did actually give us good minutes
Played
in Game
well.
4.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the half, and a nice stretch of physicality from him. I did see some tweets hit my timeline say that Tristan's playing with
Oh no.
more defensive aggression than AD was in Game 4. I was like, yeah, that's unfortunate. But you know, Malik and Mo have player options, or they're unguaranteed contracts. They're not player options. Sorry,
Mm-hmm.
so we can waive them to no cost to us. I have said that in my write up that we should keep them if we don't have any reason to waive them, right?
Yep.
And and the main reason why is they can still be useful either as asset management wise, they can trade them to bring somebody back. People have floated trades where Malik's an expiring or Mo isn't expiring, and they're attaching picks to bring in another player. The other thing also is we need able bodies for a regular season. So
Yes.
even if you don't have a trade lined up for them for whatever reason, like they're still guys that can contribute in the regular season. Malik can go out there and shoot. Like he's not completely unplayable. It's just in the playoffs because of his defense, it was difficult. Mo had some really nice moments. Like I remember against the OKC game on the road, he had a really good game. He drilled a bunch of threes for us. We haven't really seen much of him to be able to
Mm-hmm.
say we shouldn't bring him back. And again, like 16 million from Malik, not really that bad of a number, especially since he's expiring. I think 11 million for Mo, that's really not a bad
Yep.
number for somebody like that. So I'm of the mind that we should just guarantee them if we're
Yep.
at the bare minimum to use them as asset management. You agree on that?
Oh yeah, 100%. I also like again Malik was awful in the playoffs. He also just could not hit a shot. He couldn't do the one thing he's paid to do.
Yeah.
But I love the point that you made. Need bodies in the regular season. These are
Yes.
definitely regular season guys. Again, just look back the previous season. The difference between a minimum signing player and then like a guy like Malik Beasley who's making 12, 13 million dollars, 16 million. Mobama makes 11 million per year. Those are guys that are just not on a minimum deals. And that can help you. Maybe Malik's not a playoff player. That's fine. Mo Bamba, I'm so interested. Like we traded Patrick Beverly and like 3 second-round picks for. Was it 3 or was it 5? I don't remember how many it was for Mo Bamba. It was a multitude amount
I
of
don't think
second.
we trade. Do we trade any second rounders for him? I don't think we traded any second rounders for him.
We did.
We
I thought we
got
traded
second rounders in. So what
in
happened
the Thomas
was,
Bryant deal, right? We got
yeah,
second rounders, and we
yeah. So
sent
what
those.
happened? Yeah. Go ahead, sir.
No. I was gonna ask you. We sent those to Orlando, did we not? When
I don't think we sent any second. I'll have to double
no,
check, but I don't
yeah,
remember
okay,
us sending.
yeah. In any case, we traded our starting shooting guard
Yeah,
for Mo Bamba
yeah.
at the time, and he just got a high ankle sprain. I believe that took him out. But I think it's an interesting prospect. I don't know what he is. I think that's been the most online trade that's been put out. I've seen that trade pull in way too variety of players, but a super wide range that has cast for that package. It's the new. What was the package that everyone's floating? THT and I forgot. There's one more guy involved in that. I forgot who it was. But it was like THT and one more person and a first
David
round.
Jones.
Yes. THT and David Jones. For and that's like the new thing. It's Beasley and Bamba plus whatever second rounders you want to throw in there. The 46th pick to go get another guy. So like if they package those two and go get a guy, I'm not mad. If they bring them back, I'm not upset either. I do think we need a center for next season. I think I've told you this as well. I do think we need
For
some
sure.
type of big man that can play off of, maybe play with AD or be our backup center. So LeBron doesn't have to be the backup center, or Rui doesn't have to be. But those guys are regular season dudes. We'll see what Bamba is. I think he's still kind of raw. He's a pick and pop big. Beasley's just a shooter. He's either on or he isn't. Like he's
Yeah,
either
basically.
hot or he's not. And I think he'll have games in
Movement
the regular.
shooter, relocation shooter, that sort of spread offense role. Yeah.
And look, he's probably not going to start anymore. Like he started a ton of games for us. He's probably going to come off the bench, but that's useful. Like a knockdown guy who people guard. Teams
Mhm.
still chase out on Malik Beasley, and that's a skill that and that's the type of gravity that he brings. I think is necessary. Is a little overpaid for 16, maybe, but like
Yeah.
those guys you're not getting for 4 or 5 million. That's just not how the league works. You're not getting Malik Beasley for like the minimum signing. So
Yeah, for sure.
um,
Yeah,
so yeah,
it's like the Luke Kennard deal that the Clippers
mm,
gave. They gave him 16 million a year, and he would almost never see the floor. Like he was not even like the fourth most important guard on that roster, while that team was good, and like he would not even get played in the playoffs. And
yep,
like even Memphis, they only played him because like they had so many guys get hurt,
yep.
or be unable to help. So it's just like again, shooters get Duncan Robinson plays like is completely out of the rotation. Tyler Harrell gets hurt. They're getting nothing out of some of these other guys that they have. They throw him out there. He just lights it up, because teams haven't seen him in like 80 games because he hasn't played. And he ends up being a hero in that Boston. He's cutting
Yep.
on Al Horford or something like that, hitting cutting layups and stuff like that in game 7. So it's like you never know what it is,
Right.
but you have to try and keep these guys. I agree with you. Yeah.
But before we move on, really, let me ask you this. I don't want them to trade 17, but just hypothetically, let's say that's on the table. What's the scope of a player you think would come back in a Beasley Bamba 17 deal? What's your the NBA is tough. You don't know what teams players markets are, but like to you, does that get you back enough of a rotation? Let me ask this better. Does that get you back enough of a rotational piece to where you would even shop that, like, or would you just like, I'm keeping the 17th pick. We're gonna go with that. We're gonna try to package Bamba and Beasley with some seconds or whatever. Or like to you, is that even worth looking at in the market? Is that something you think that would even be fruitful for the team?
So the thing is that the only way that pick is helpful is if it goes to a team that needs the extra first rounder for a larger trade, to like
Mm,
another trade. So like I'll give you an example, right? Like let's say we pick up, we guarantee both of their deals, right? And we go to Brooklyn, and we know that Brooklyn wants like Dame, or they want some other guy because they love Mikal Bridges and they love what they have. Like you can take Malik. I haven't looked at their salary, so the salaries may not even work. But you can take Malik's salary and offer to take like a bad salary or like a longer term salary back because they don't want that player. Like maybe it's Dorian Finney-Smith, maybe it's Royce O'Neal, like something like that.
mm,
And you offer that first, so they can use that first for whatever they want. They get an expiring, and we get back like a guy like Royce O'Neal because they just don't need him. You know what I mean? Like they're gonna have
mm,
Michael, they're gonna pick Cam, they're gonna use that pick to trade for Siakam or Dame or something like that. So it's like they don't have the minutes to allocate for all those guys to begin with and to pay. Like that's the only way I could see that deal bringing back an impact guy. I've seen that pick be floated for Miles Turner. I've seen that pick be floated for Buddy Hield, and like we might as well get to it because we're talking about Mo. But it's just like this fixation that Lakers fans have with Miles Turner is insane, and I don't think, and even in the heels of this, like even in the heels of this Denver series, like they're like, oh, you have to get Miles Turner now because Jokic torched AD. Like, okay, I understand that. I understand that point of what you're saying, but why does it have to be Miles Turner? Why does it always have to be that guy specifically every single time? The Lakers, I was looking it up while we were discussing it. The Lakers had the number 4, and if you some of these other teams they lost in the early rounds, so they wouldn't even
mm,
really count. But they basically had the number 1, more or less, number 1 or number 2 half court defense in the NBA for the playoffs. So the number 1 was Chicago. They got bounced early. New York
mm,
was the second team. They got bounced early. Cleveland got bounced early. So the Lakers, and then it's the Lakers. And then after that, it's Golden State. So the Lakers actually had the number of the teams that made it past, into the later rounds. They had pretty much the number one half court defense in the league. Why are we getting a guy that's adding to what's already a strength of what he had? And I get what people are saying. Oh, well, now AD can play off the ball and Miles Turner can guard Jokic straight up and blah, blah, blah. But we got annihilated in transition defense. You're adding another big dude to a team that's already kind of slow in transition defense. So now you're going to ask AD, LeBron, Miles Turner to all get back on defense fast enough so that, like a team, like Bruce Brown doesn't go coast to coast on us. You know what I mean? Like, and so for me, every time I see that floated, first of all, I don't think Miles Turner even wants to come here. From what I've been told, him and Tyrese Halliburton are like best friends. Like they want to play with each other. And so Indiana's like, we're not trading him anyways. But my thing is like, if we're going to use that pick, why not use it for somebody who's going to like maybe complement Austin better if he's going to be a starter for us in the backcourt? You know what I mean? Like if D'Lo's not the guy that we go with, maybe we see if we can find like a defense. Like I would rather, if it's possible, if he's available, I'd rather send that first for DeJounte Murray. Much better defensive player than D'Lo is. He can get to the rim. He's very fast. He's very, very versatile. I'd rather use it for a guy like that than Buddy Hield and Miles Turner. Like this fascination that people have with him specifically, it drives me crazy. I've told this to you offline. It's like, I don't know what people are watching like to come to that conclusion.
Yeah, I guess I like Miles Turner as a player. I think he's fine. I think he's overrated as a shooter. I think he's a pretty good shot blocker. I think he'd be a fine center. I think LeBron, AD, and Turner is huge. To me though, Miles Turner just got a 2-year, $60 million extension by Indiana. You know what I mean? They're not giving you for him for Malik Beasley, Mo Bamba, and a first round pick. Just not how it works. You're not getting Miles Turner for that. And again, the last summer conversations, I'm sure maybe will continue this year. I don't think that's where they go, and I also don't want to put all our resources into another center. To me, that's not where you should go. I think we have other holes to fill. I would like a center to be picked up. I don't think you have to go pay $30 million to have a $30 million center on your book. So I agree with you. I do think they'll look at Buddy Hield. I don't think they'll give a first round pick for Buddy Hield, and that's where that's the line to me. I'm like, where's the line there? And that's where I come back to. I'd rather just keep the pick. I want to keep number 17.
Yes, I agree.
And I don't know when the next time we'll have a first round pick, right? 2024 or 2025 is the Pelicans. They get to choose. They get to choose, I believe, whether to have it next year or the following year. So give the scouts the number 17, reward them. They've been so good with their selections. They've been picking out of the undrafted pool, the late seconds, and so it'd be nice to just give them a first round pick. And I think there's a lot of players there that can help. So that's what I was wondering, because I just don't think there's anything out there that you're getting. 17 isn't like the number 7 pick, like that. Maybe you're in a little bit more conversations with that, even or higher, or you're in like the lottery situation. But 17, that doesn't inspire very much trade wise.
I agree.
So and especially with the players going out. So
I really only see the 17 as like a volume, like a team that just wants the extra pick because they're in a completely different space that they want to go towards. So I'm with you also. I don't want to trade the 17th pick for a guy like Miles Turner or Buddy Hield. Like I would please, if you're going to trade the first rounder, trade it for a guy that you want. If LeBron tells you tomorrow that he's not going to be on the team, like he's retiring. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like don't trade your first rounders anymore for the sake of trading your first rounders. That's the best way I could describe it. Like I thought we did a very good job not giving up anything for Rui. Like that deal kind of fell into our lap from what I've been told. And like even the trade for Mo, like trading Pat for Mo, like that's a great deal, even though we didn't get very much out of Mo in the playoffs. Those are still very good deals. The Russ trade is still a very good deal, even if we let D'Lo walk, because Vando is a quality player. Like he probably doesn't get you a first rounder on the market, but he probably gets you like 2 or 3 second rounders from a team that uses him as a defensive specialist. So it's like, no more, please. Like I want to give LeBron and AD the best chance to be successful, but I'm not sure trading the first for very marginal improvements from guys that are like for me, the way I see it is Miles Turner would be a starting center because you have to start him at this point once you trade for him. But the other thing also is you have to justify his offensive, like him just standing at the 3-point line it's not making people change the way that they defend. Like, because it's the same thing that we ran into before with Avery Bradley, right? Avery was a great defensive player, but teams also know he's only going to shoot the ball like maybe 6 times at the very most at the game. in a game. So it's like Miles would have to be attempting at least 10 threes a game, like a Buddy Hield number, for it to make sense for us to trade for a guy like that. Because that means that we're feeding him looks. We're setting him up. We're running offense to get him open looks. And if we're not doing that, and we're not
Right.
tailoring our offense to do that, which we're not, because LeBron and AD are still going to be on this team, like
Yep.
then that doesn't make sense to do. And
Right.
so it's just that's
And
my
then
rant on Miles Turner. Like
no,
I'm just tired of it.
no,
Indiana doesn't want to trade with us. They don't like us. They hate us
no.
for tampering with Paul George. Like they're never going to trade with us. And I think Kevin Pritchard, the guy who used to work for Portland way back in the day when we were beating the crap out of Portland with Shaq and Kobe, like he's the guy. He's one of the guys that's I think over in Indiana, like one of the executives there. He doesn't like us. Like they're not going to trade to us. They're not going to give us a favorable deal. So just don't even bother.
No, for sure. Like I would be interested in a Beasley Hield swap. I think Hield is better than Beasley.
Yeah,
that's a swap I would be interested in. Maybe for a second. I wouldn't trade 17 for that. I wouldn't give your 17th pick in that deal. Also, we gotta stop the sign and trade D'Lo and the 17 for Kyrie Irving. We gotta stop. We gotta stop. We gotta stop that. That's just not based in any real situation. It's not happening. Like we gotta stop that. Like
I mean, look, any version of Kyrie coming to the Lakers would involve him being signed and traded to the Lakers, which would hard cap us. We know he's not taking a discount to come play with LeBron. He doesn't. I don't care about their handshakes. Kyrie knows that this is probably going to be his last contract extension ever after all the drama that he's gone through in the past couple of years. Like he's going to ask for $40 million, and if we get hard capped because we want this, it's not possible. That means that Anthony Davis or LeBron James are not on our team.
Also, forget all that. If Dallas trades Kyrie Irving for D'Angelo Russell, Luka will walk out the door tomorrow. Okay, like please stop this. Like if they trade, because that's the only guy available for this. If D'Angelo Russell and Kyrie Irving swap, I don't care if you throw the 17th pick in there. I don't care if you throw whatever in there. Luka will walk out the door tomorrow. So that's not. We gotta stop this. If Kyrie comes to Lakers, it's on some ridiculous discount that he took, or like it's some super strange out of left field, and it's Kyrie Irving, so you can never throw everything out the window. But please stop those sign and trades. Dallas is not giving you Kyrie Irving for D'Angelo Russell in the 17th pick. Like we gotta stop those. Stop sending me those, please.
So we're almost to D'Lo. I definitely wanted to cover these two guys because they were important in different moments in the playoffs. And it's Lonnie Walker the fourth and Dennis Schroeder. So I'm going to cover Lonnie Walker the fourth first because I think it'll be an easier conversation. So we gave him the taxpayer mid-level exception. We can give him a 15% raise, which will get him at about $8 million next year. I don't know what Walker's value is. Obviously, he had that game 4 against the Warriors that was monstrous, won us the game. But $8 million is not a bad number for a guy like Lonnie. You and I were very high on him at the start of the season. We thought his benching might have been a little unjustified. His usage was bizarre, using him in 4-guard lineups, stuff like that was really bad. But if he's willing to come back at an $8 million deal, maybe a 1+1, so that he can get back out on the market, improve his value for probably Ham has now seen that he can actually score. He's a Russ type. I can get to the rim, super athletic. He has a nice energy with Austin Reeves. I've seen both of those guys get off at the same time, as players in transition. He's a rim pressure threat that we did not have, and like a real one, not a fake one like Dennis, where just kind of fakes his way to the rim and then brings it back out. I would bring him back. At $8 million, I think that's a good number, especially because you'll probably be okay with a 1+1 deal or a 2+1 deal. What do you think about that?
Really quick, can you explain how we keep him for $8 million? So it's like you're saying, he's...
So we have his non-bird rights,
right?
And the non-bird rights say that you can. It's either 15% or 20%. Basically, says whatever you got paid last year, you can get. The team can give you a 20% raise, and 15 or 20% raise. And so the Lakers, because they signed him at $7 million, a 20% raise gets him to about $8 million. So if his free agent market isn't better than that, which means nobody's offering him no team with cap space is offering him more than $8 million, or nobody's offering the non-taxpayer mid-level, which is like that full $12 million. Then Lakers kind of have an advantage. They can say, hey, we'll give you that 15% raise. You came through for us in that playoff game. We did use him in small ball lineups where he did help out. Yeah, I think I want to say in the Memphis series, he had a small moment where he was helping defensively and stuff like that too as well. It's not a bad, again, 82 game player. You can use him as a guard to spell, if somebody gets injured. I think it makes a ton of sense to bring him back.
I'm not sure I'm sure maybe we beat the Warriors. I don't know. Like, I don't know what happens if you lose that game,
Yeah,
that
game
game
four.
4 against the Warriors. Like, I really don't. Like, I think like he won you a game in the playoffs. I don't think he'll get Malik Monk. Like, I don't think that's his market. Like, I just don't like. I'm comparing them. Malik had a much better season. He was also played more, had a lot bigger role. There were injuries and stuff like that. But Malik Monk, I think, showed a lot more than I think Lonnie Walker was able to show. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Like, maybe Lonnie shows it next season, but Malik Monk showed a lot more off the ball, and he got like a 2-year 20, and we just could not afford that, right? So like,
Yeah.
I think he signed the minimum with us, so we had no chance of affording him. And I think even the Lonnie Walker conversations was like, we got him. We have a chance at least to re-sign him. I remember beginning of the year, people talked about that. So I would like that. I'm not sure. Again, it's obviously on a lot smaller scale in Austin, but Lonnie had a playoff moment. I just don't know how GMs go and be like, let me give my whole taxpayer MLE to that.
Exactly.
That's not what happens. That's usually like that's a very coveted asset for teams. They don't usually just throw that out on a blink of an eye. So I'd be interested to see what his market is. Again, the Spurs just let him walk, which was strange again last season, how that worked. They just let him out of his contract. So we'll see. He's also clutch, which doesn't hurt. Like, doesn't hurt re-signing with the Lakers. I would like him back for that number as well. I just don't see a team throwing money at Lonnie Walker. He just did not play enough. Whether that's his fault or not, but I think they said like he sat 30 straight games. It's insane.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot. It's a ton. Even with
he
the
was
playoff
starting.
moment.
He was starting next to LeBron and AD at the start of the season. He was averaging 15 a game for the Lakers, which I am 100% sure no Laker fan was expecting. Like, I actually remember a lot of, without naming names, I remember a few of our more notable Laker accounts saying that it was a terrible signing. He's not good. He's not going to be good. Obviously he has defensive deficiencies and stuff like that, but like, I remember you and I talked about it. Like, you watch the tape on him, it's there. You can see it.
Yeah.
Somebody has to just help guide him in the direction he has to go in.
Yeah, and I remember when we started 2-10, I was like, this dude's playing well. Like, he's not the reason for 2-10.
Yeah.
Like, he's guarding Dame well. He's guarding these other guards well. It's just something dropped off. I think just playing small forward. I remember Dennis came back from his hand injury. Patrick Beverly came back from the thumb injury, and then our guard rotation just went to hell. We just played.
It was bad, dude.
And then
so bad.
It was terrible. Then we traded for D'Angelo Russell and Malik Beasley, and then Lonnie Walker was just out of the rotation. Like, he just didn't play anymore. So. Again, whatever side you're on, you're right? Like, the people who didn't like the Lonnie Walker signing can just point to, hey, he didn't play the final 30 games, or the people who were like, hey, Lonnie's good. We're like, hey, game 4, freaking won you up. He went toe to toe with Steph Curry, in Steph Curry at the peak of his freaking powers. He's going back and forth with Steph Curry in a playoff game. So, I'd hope he returns. I think he's gonna just go for the biggest bag, which he should. Like, I think he's gonna go for whatever pays him the most this summer, and for opportunity, right? I don't think he wants another season where he's the 4th string guard. Like, I don't think that's what Lonnie Walker wants. So that'll be interesting too. Like, you have D'Lo. Oh, we'll see. We'll talk about D'Lo, but D'Lo, Austin. We'll see what happens with Dennis, Lonnie. Like, that's 4th string guard. I'm interested to see if that's what he wants. But it'll be interesting.
Yeah, so Dennis is really the other counterpart to this sort of thing, and I actually have had with some folks in the writing circle, like, I've had a very deep debate, like, with people about whether you should bring back Dennis and whether you should bring back Lonnie, and people were very high on Dennis, and they weren't high on Lonnie at all, and I was just like, I'm surprised people are saying that. Maybe because Dennis has shown that he can be a consistent scorer, like in the regular season. But, Dennis, for the most part in the playoffs, didn't really have a great offensive, like, he had some maybe really good offensive moments, a few plays here and there, but he was pretty deferential to the stars and to everybody else. There were definitely many times where he probably held on the ball too much without any intention to look to score, unless, like, the defensive player.
He's a defensive player.
Yeah.
In the playoffs.
And so the Lakers don't, so we have his non-bird rights too as well, but he's a minimum salary guy. He was having a spectacular EuroLeague in the offseason, and nobody wanted to sign him but the Lakers. And obviously we know about the connection between Darvin Ham and him, and everything like that. And the Lakers can offer the taxpayer MLE, which is about $5 million to Dennis. Now, I am against it.
Mm.
because I think you're adding a talent that is pretty much going to be guaranteed 30 minutes a game, 32 minutes a game, which is not, and he's a marginal player. So my concern with him is not actually basketball, but I think he's a fantastic defensive guy. He plays really hard defensively. His offense is very suspect when he gets defended by big physical guys. He shies away from the rim. Everything kind of goes haywire. Not a good shooter from the three and whatnot. He was dealing with some ankle injuries too in the playoffs. He was playing through it, but he was very
Mm-hmm.
tough. I remember you and I joked like D'Lo sprained his ankle, missed 9 games. Then he sprains his ankle. Is like, yeah, I'm coming right back. Like I'm not missing. I'm playing the second half.
Yeah.
And so if he wants to come back at the vet min or like the 15% raise, which is like $2 million total or whatever, $2.5 million, I'm okay with it. I'd like to keep that taxpayer MLE for maybe like a wing size player. If, I think the Warriors got like DiVincenzo or something like that at the end of it. He ended up
Yeah.
being better than Jordan Poole in the series for the Warriors. Like I'd rather save it for a guy like him. Where are you with that? So my concern with Dennis is he's going to eat up minutes from guys that can actually be productive, like the Max Christie's, the Austin Reeves. If we bring back Lonnie, like I'd like to have Lonnie get some minutes in that situation. If
Yeah.
Malik is moved for Buddy Hield, I'm concerned that Dennis will eat those guys minutes. Not that he's not a good basketball player. So I wouldn't want to bring him back at $5 million.
Yeah, him and Ham definitely have some sort of connection and
Yeah,
relationship, which I think is important. I think you need players that have a connection with your coach. I think I think you need players that your coaches not only trust, but they trust him as well. And obviously, there's
yeah,
some relationship there. I would be shocked, Vinay, if he doesn't get that. Like to me, like
okay.
it just feels like that's a bond there. It just feels like that's what's gonna become of it.
Yeah,
Dennis is what
Braun
made
likes
them.
him. Somehow he gets this inside information from Braun and tells fans that, and Braun never says anything to him about it. I'm like, what
Yeah.
is going on?
Yeah, I mean, you need to transcribe the German stuff. I'm sure, like he says a lot more crazier stuff there than he says in English here. But yeah, I think Dennis is another. I don't want to put him in that hole, but 82 game like helps you through
Yeah,
a regular
fair.
season. Plays through a ton of stuff. Is tough. Plays hard. Like he has a good motor as well. He's good on defense. I think they like that combination. Is it like murky sometimes? Yeah, like he's
For sure.
not a good shooter. He takes shots where you're like, no, 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 no. Oh, okay, that went in. Like a ton of those type of looks where
Yeah,
he takes threes and takes shot. He has a light that's probably greener than you want it to be. But I think that's again, Darvin Ham kind of instills that in his guys. But I'd be shocked if he doesn't get the taxpayer MLE. And
fair.
maybe you can find another wing with that. I think his minutes, I'm sure he's going to be penciled in for the 2025. We'll see where D'Lo goes. I think Austin is about to get that new contract, so he'll be penciled in as a starter. So maybe
Yeah,
that's a little bit less. Darvin Ham likes his 3-guard lineups. Like maybe he continues that next season. We'll see.
fair.
I would just be shocked if Dennis doesn't get that. But do you think a team would pay him? Like he had some moments, at least in the regular season. I mean, he had a louder regular season than other guys did. So I'm not sure if a team would go after that. You just went through the EuroLeague stuff. I think a lot of his issues were more off the court, right? Like, I mean, there's no reason. Like, I think in Boston, he was like torpedoing. He was taking the ball away from Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, which is an insane thing to say. Houston was like, no, we're good. Like, we don't want another guard here. So he ends up on the Lakers. But I don't. I would be shocked to me if he doesn't get that taxpayer MLE. If that's the asset that we have, it feels like that's where we're coming to.
Yeah, I don't know how much of a priority he will be in like the pecking order of
Mm-hmm.
things. I would hope that they'll probably wait and see who's available at that 5 million before they actually offer it to him.
I'm sure
I
he'll
will
wait
say,
too, right? He wants
yeah,
more than 5 million. Like
for sure, yeah, yeah.
we went through his contracts.
I've heard that his issues or the sentiment around him around the league is not a basketball thing. It's more of a
Right.
him personality thing. Like, Braun likes him, so that's important. Like, well, I guess the best way I could say is like our star players like him. Anthony Davis probably a little bit less than Braun because of the whole not setting him up for plays or whatever thing, passing to thing. But that's not the same sentiment that Dennis gets from other places, other franchises that he's been on. That the star players like him, like
Mm.
that as a person. And so that locker room stuff matters sometimes. Like if you have a guy that doesn't get along with your star players or just kind of weird vibe. Obviously, we had the Russ Vampire thing. That was a big thing that people were saying, or McMenamin reported. So, like, obviously, Laker fans should be familiar with what it is when it comes to it. So yeah, I'm with you. Same thing. We can bring Lonnie back at the 8 million number. Dennis, 5 million. If we don't have any other option and we can't do something better with it, I'm okay with that. 82 game bodies are really important because of LeBron and AD, and just we don't know
Yep.
what's going to happen with them physically. Which brings us to the most controversial player of the playoffs for the Lakers. Not we traded one Russell and brought on another Russell. That also was just as controversial. Not just as controversial, but
Polarizing. Yeah.
as polarizing. D'Angelo had a very rough playoffs for the Lakers. He did have a few games where he played really well. He definitely had a few portions of games where he really stepped up, especially like in the Warriors series. He did it. I would say in the Memphis series, like the start of the third quarters for like a couple of those games, he played really well. But we didn't necessarily get the player that we were hoping. And to tie it back to your original question, which I think is a great question that you asked. You asked Twitter, who in a smaller role can be the Aaron Gordon for a team, a guy who's being. I think D'Angelo Russell was supposed to be that guy for us, and he wasn't. And even with my rant about Miles Turner, one of the reasons why I'm so upset that people are still not so upset, but I'm like irritated that people keep talking about adding a center to the team. Our issue against Denver is literally all of our guards got wiped out except for Austin Reeves. They were unplayable except for Austin.
Yeah.
And my thing is we have to address that. Like that's an important thing. Like our second year guard was our best guard. Like that is a problem. And more than whoever's defending Jokic and ISO, like that was my concern. And my thing is, I think it was just too easy to wipe D'Lo out of the series.
Way too easy.
Warriors did it with Gary Payton. And then, obviously Denver made it a point to wipe him out, with KCP and different guys. And, even he was part of the post-game conversations and whatnot. And I think LJ is saying it in the YouTube chat, he played 17 games, missed 9 games. I think the Lakers went 6-3 without him, like in the lineup when he missed those 9 games. Like, you have a winning record without the guy who's supposed to be like your third guy in the regular season, and you're playing, you have his backcourt mate playing better than him in the playoffs. Like it at least with the microscope Laker fans have, like it'll raise a lot of eyebrows. And I know the number that's been floated around for him is like a 50, like a 2-year, $50 million, like 25 a year. I'm sure the Lakers probably want to get him somewhere closer to 20 million a year if they can. I don't know if he'll go for that. Politics stuff aside, for the folks that don't know, he's with CAA. He's not with Clutch. He's not with Wasserman. He's not with any of the smaller agencies. CAA is a very big agency. They don't, they do business with us, with the Lakers in general. So there's another aspect to it, like, are you going to take care of this guy? But the Lakers are also in position where if LA is not the place for D'Lo, we can sign and trade him to a place. His agency will figure something out for him, a destination that may want him. What are your thoughts on like this? Like, if D'Lo asks for $30 million or he's walking, are you giving him $30 million? Like, let's say throw the asset management part. Like, you and I would both say asset management wise, you've got to keep him. You can't just let him walk for nothing. But what do you think about that? If he's super hardcore about the number that he wants to get?
Yeah. So really, you brought it up, the CAA stuff. I also think like D'Angelo Russell is just a guy that walks to his own drum. Like you could like, you know what I mean? Like he just does things on his time. Whether the first years were a part of that, or whatever. I think I'm higher on D'Lo than even a lot of people. Also, it's sentimental value to me. Like I like picks that we drafted. Like we drafted him number 2. I have some sentimental value with that. I watch Boston, see Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum go from summer league games to conference final games. I think that's really cool. And I would love D'Lo to work out, I guess is my point with that. Like I would like it to work out where D'Angelo Russell came back and he played into it, right? He accepted all that. He didn't shy away from any of that conversation. He wasn't like, oh yeah, I was drafted by the Lakers, but I've been passed around. He's like, no, I started here. I want to correct what or however the terms he put it. I want to return this team to the correct glory or whatever in short terms he said. 30 means a lot. I also don't know like where D'Angelo Russell's getting 30. Like you just look at him as a concept. D'Angelo Russell, if he's coming in to your team, you're not building around D'Angelo Russell. Like that's not happening. He's too late in his career for that. He's made one All-Star team. Congrats on the one All-Star team. Like whatever you want to think about that. But you're bringing D'Angelo Russell in. You're probably a team that's good. That probably needs off-ball shooting. Are you paying $30 million for a guy who might start for you, might not? We'll see. I just don't think that's his market. I think 20 million is probably his range. And again, you can bring the asset managers back. You just have to you can't let a guy like that walk. To me, you got to
Sure.
keep that salary spot what it is. I think they'll find some agreement there. I don't think they're going to let him walk at all. Maybe he's a 82 game player. Like maybe that's what he is.
Maybe that's what he is. Yeah.
I think he had important moments in the playoffs. Like I don't want that to go away. I think like even the playing game, he had huge threes. The Memphis series, he had huge threes in the fourth quarter. I think he had like a 9-0 run to put us up 1 after being down 8 in some game. The Warriors series started hot in game 6. Game 1 had the game winner, right? The essential game winner. The Warriors went on a 14-row run, and D'Lo scores the final shot. Those shots matter too in the collective.
Fair.
But you needed more from D'Lo, 100%. Like you needed him to. He couldn't be taken out that easily. The aggression upped and he shied away. And then you can even look at his backcourt partner. The aggressive, the physicality increased and he embraced it. He's like, oh, you're gonna be more physical. I'm gonna go to the line. I'm gonna impact the game in ways that you can't take me out of it. And I thought D'Lo was removed, and he accepted being removed. That was the part was the more that rubbed me the wrong way. I guess it was kind of like, well, what am I supposed to do? Bruce Brown is ball pressuring me. I'm like, D'Angelo Russell, you find ways to still be aggressive through that. Run a pick and roll, get to the rim a little bit, get to the line. He was just way too comfortable with being like, yeah, I'm just going to continue to shoot my contested jump shots and see if they go in. If they don't, then I'm not impacting the game. I just don't think we're in a situation where we can let him walk. There's a load of a talent discrepancy that we don't have that we can just let him go. But where are you at with it? I know you're you're hard on D'Lo as I think most people are.
So for the folks that don't know, like at the end of every season, I wipe my Twitter clean. Like I delete all my tweets, all my everything, because I just I don't get too attached to whatever happens online.
Sure.
So I always delete everything. So it's just like you won't see any of the tweets anymore. But I very distinctly remember after the Minnesota game where D'Lo was like, "Oh yeah, these guys have been traumatized by what was happening before." And so he's basically joking about Russ. And I remember tweeting him. I was just like, all right, no more funny post-game stuff because you have not played well. Like, you're trying to win fans over through, the media, by saying stuff that we'll like. And you've got to stop doing that because we're watching you play and you're not playing well. And not to say that other guys were, but it's just like, we can see you. And so this is only going to last for so long. And then you could tell, the novelty of, the D'Lo shooting after the game, after having a bad shooting game. Laker fans after game, the second time he did, they're like, all right, dude, we don't care. We don't care you're getting shots up at the end of the game. He followed up a 3 for 8 game with a 1 for 8 game. I was like, all right, bro.
So he did in game 4. He did in game 4, Vinay. After our season ended, he's out there full jersey shooting after the game. It's like, man, that's, I guess.
Anyways, so from an asset management standpoint, sorry, I can't stop laughing because, bro, it's just people get mad at me sometimes. This is just my random rant, but people get mad at me sometimes, and they'll be like, "Oh, you're just a fan of this guy, and that's why you're like this, or you hate LeBron." And I'll be like, I just want to talk about the basketball I saw. Game 4, there's a stretch where the Lakers have a chance to win the game, take the lead, and LeBron runs the clock for a really, really long time. And I think the ball gets deflected out of bounds. And then we run the play where he shoots it, hits the side of the backboard. I'm not really mad at him about the ATO play. It looked like it was supposed to be a DHO with Braun and Austin. He was supposed to give it to Austin, but Braun just kind of keeps it with him, which is fine. It's LeBron. I'm never going to say anything. But him running the clock prior to that was a little irritating. And I remember I tweeted, I was just like, this is a horrendous decision by LeBron to do this at this point in the game. And people are like, oh, he's played the most minutes and he scored the most points. It's like, I know he has. I'm not saying that he's a terrible guy. I'm saying that one specific play was not good because Braun is he's so smart, and it's just this D'Lo thing. It's just I just wish people would just watch what he's doing. And I think that's basically what happened in the playoffs. People got mad at me about the Minnesota tweet. And then literally every game after that, I'm seeing the same exact people who got mad at me go, what's going on? Get rid of D'Lo. We can't play D'Lo. He's completely – they're saying this in the Memphis series. I was like, whoa, you guys need to chill out. He still had some good moments for us. And so my thing is just I don't know if he's going to become a different player next season. Like, I think he's going to have more familiarity with the team. I think he's become a better playmaker because he's going to play really well. He'll get more used to Anthony Davis. Like, he was a great playmaker for the Lakers. Like,
Yeah.
the second best playmaker for us, maybe outside of Austin. Like, he has some synergy with the guards, with Austin. He has some synergy clearly with Beasley, Vanderbilt. Like, those guys cut for him, like for him to set him up plays. So he definitely has value for us in that regards. My only thing is, I think this is just what he is, and
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to embrace the level of physicality because he's 8 seasons in, right? Like, you can't learn. I mean, you can learn new things, but we typically don't see that. This is going to be his second extension, like
Yep.
after the big one that he got from Brooklyn. And the other thing is, like, he also doesn't stay healthy. Like, we have two guys, our two stars can get injured at any point. That's a risk any team takes. But LeBron is 1,000 years old, so LeBron can't play 65 games or whatever it is for all NBA. Anthony Davis just has random stuff happen to him and he gets hurt. Sometimes he comes into the season off shape. So if I already have two guys that I don't think are going to be able to play 60 games, I don't know about adding a third guy that can do that, and that concerns me a lot. And so, asset wise, you have to keep him. You can't let him walk for nothing. He's a big chunk of your salary cap that's
Yep.
tradable. But also, we can't load manage a third dude. An ankle sprain, severity matters. I'm never going to say that like he's soft or whatever. But as a fan, when I see D'Lo miss 9 games for a hip injury, a hip injury that was never announced beforehand, an ankle injury that was never announced beforehand. He had a third injury. I can't remember what it was, a shoulder or hand or something. I can't remember what it was. And then to be told in the regular season that he would have played the next game if it was a playoff game, but he just, it's regular season, so he didn't, knowing that we were fighting for our lives to get into the playoffs to begin with. And then he has teammates on the roster that are like, I sprained my ankle like twice in the same possession. I'm playing in the second half no matter what. You know what I mean? Like, even like LeBron sprained his ankle like 3 times in one game against Denver, like blocking a shot. And he's just like, I'm playing. So it's just like, I don't know if I can deal with that as a fan, because I don't want to spend all season being like, Andy Davis is hurt. Oh no, now LeBron's hurt. Oh, now D'Lo is hurt. So it's like, bro, we can't keep doing this. It's not fair to Bron or AD.
That's fair. No, LeBron was like, "Look, I'm playing on one foot, and then it's just not a good look." I said, I don't question anyone's injury, but LeBron's like, "I'm playing on one foot," and D'Lo's, "Yeah, we'll see how I feel tomorrow." So, you know what I mean? Like, it's just a really weird situation. D'Lo might just be who he is, and that guy still costs you like $20 million. You know what I mean? Like, what D'Lo is today, I don't think he's changing. And I see, I think Worthy brought it up. His exit interview. Like, people are asking him, hey, like, D-Lo, did you learn from this playoff experience? Like, are you going to go and work on? It's like, yeah, I'm kind of who I am. That's not really what you would. That's really not what you want to hear. Like, as a fan, I appreciate the realism. I appreciate him being real with me. He's not, oh no, you know what? I didn't shoot well against Denver. I'm gonna be in the gym tomorrow. He's like, I am kind of who I am. Like, I'm not gonna change. Like, the Lakers know who I am. The league knows who I am. He sounds like a guy who's kind of made his money and is kind of like, look, I'm gonna be in the league next year. I kind of know what contracts I'm gonna be offered. So I don't think he's changing. I don't think you should go into next season and be like, yeah, Deal is gonna accept you compared him just now to the Wiggins, Aaron Gordon type. I don't think he's not accepting that, but I do think I saw a little bit of like, okay, Austin's so good. I don't need the ball. Like, I'm gonna give Austin the ball, and maybe maybe, I don't know if you want. There's a line of competitiveness and a line of like necessary deferring to your teammate who's really good as well. And there was like a weird passing of the torch that was too comfortable. I don't know how to explain this in words that make too much sense, but you know what I mean.
The easiest way to explain it is there was a point where it felt like he was very okay. Like, he knew what Denver's game plan was, and he was okay, like, just rolling with whatever Denver's game plan was, which is, we're just going to ball pressure you so much that you just give up the ball and you don't even try to get KCP into foul trouble or try to be aggressive or like try to junk up what we're trying to do. And it just seemed like he's like, yeah, pressuring me, I'm just going to give it up. Like, and that's the way I saw it.
So the Denver series kind of magnified this, but I thought this happened throughout the playoffs, where like in the Memphis series, in the Warriors series, where he's like, you know what, Austin's been killing. Like, I'm just giving to him every time, which is great. It's just like sometimes can you cook your matchup? You know what I mean? They're hiding the worst defender on you. Like,
Right.
can you attack your guys sometimes? They hid their worst defenders on him. And I thought against Steph, he did attack him sometimes and had,
Yeah.
some good matchups. And we did, use him as a screener a little bit. I wish we used that a little bit more, put him, in more actions. But I thought there was just a lot of deferring. But I think he just who he is. He's gonna be hot. It's kind of a little bit more extreme of a Malik Beasley kind of thing. So we'll see. But I think that player is still gonna cost you like $20 million. I don't see Vinay like a $30 million market though for D'Angelo.
I know for a fact that he was hoping to ask for $35 million a year. Like he was going to ask for like 35 a year when he first joined the Lakers. Like
Sure.
everything was amazing. Lakers are rolling teams. He's going out there and making jokes about the guys that used to be on the roster. Laker fans are eating it up. They're like, "Oh yeah, this is amazing." Like look at the vibe. Up and down my timeline, I was like, look at how mature he is. He's grown up so much since he used to play on Lakers. And to some degree, he has. Like he's spent more years in the league. But it's just like the moment, there was some adversity, then you got like this little catty version of him, and people are like, hold on now. Like I'm still not in the same boat as what other people are doing, where like you have to get rid of him. Like I don't agree with that at all. I'm like, you've got to find something in between for a guy like him if you can't move him for somebody who actually helps the team out. But like again, this is not specific just to D'Lo. A lot of guys around the league are like this. Like they know who they are. Like you're not going to Julius Randle. Like New York's not going to Julius Randle and telling him to change his game. Like Randle is who he is. Either he's working for whatever you're trying to do it with his strengths and weaknesses, or he's not. And that's just how it goes. And I think about D'Lo and I think about Randle kind of in the same way. Like they are who they are now at this point. So you either are okay with paying them the amount of money that they want or they feel they deserve, or whatever the market dictates, and you find a way to make them, maximize them whichever way, or you don't have them on the roster, and like that's just how it works. But he's if Austin's made himself and Rui has made himself an incredible amount of money in the playoffs, he's for sure lost himself a lot of like equity. I would say in some of these negotiations.
So you said the $35 million number. The Lakers won the title. I think he's
getting that. Yeah,
he would have got that. Like he could have went to the number and it could have said any number. I think the Randall thing is funny because when I tweeted that, a lot of people answered Julius Randle. I was like, Julius Randle made 13 All NBA this year. Like, you know what I mean? Like Julius Randle's not changing next season to, support or come off the bench for Obi Toppin, which I kind of said the Knicks might have needed to do. But like, Julius Randle made third team All NBA, and that's where it's so interesting. D'Lo's not on that level, obviously, but he's gonna get his numbers in the regular season. He's gonna go out and get his 17 a game or whatever it is. Maybe it's not in the efficiency you like. He shot 40% from three. I think in the regular season, which he was for sure brought up in his closing conference. But yeah, like, so he was very aware of like what he wanted to do this season, and I think
he's a smart. I remember when we got him. I remember I told you I was like, he's a smart guy both on and off the floor. Like he knows what people are saying about him, and he knows like how he's perceived.
Yeah, he's very keen. He's very aware. I remember like there was one time someone asked him about being a point guard. He's like, I'm not a point guard. What are you talking about?
He's like,
So he's like, I'm just an all around guard on this team or whatever he said. So yeah, like I think they're gonna try to sign him, but I don't think they're just gonna let him walk for nothing. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, so if that number comes out to like somewhere between 20 million to 25 million a year, and it's like a short-term 2-year deal, I'm okay with that. I don't think there's anything crazy about that. The reason why I'm adverse to the 30 and 35 million is because I think it becomes much harder to trade if you do want to move.
Yeah.
Because it's very hard to move guys that are that high up. So I think the Lakers, from what I've heard on the back end, like that 25 number is probably the number that he might agree on. Like it might make the most sense. It'd be like 1+1 or something like that for him, like a player option.
Is another team throwing 25 million at D'Angelo? Like I love D'Lo for more sentimental reasons than basketball sometimes, but like 25 million is a lot for a guard that, like if again, I just put out the situation. If you're not winning, you probably have a guard that you're building up. wherever that is,
Fair.
whether you're drafting Scoot Henderson, whether, you're building up whatever guards on your team. If you're a really good team, you probably have a guard that
Yeah.
like you're set. So I don't know where that market is, I guess, but markets create themselves. I'm not sure where his market. And finally, pose this to you, jumping this back to you. If you pay D'Lo $25 million a year, can you bring him off the bench next year?
No, you can't. You can.
Okay.
So it's like the money. This money conversation is a big deal because we know Austin's cap. Like we don't have to worry about him. But Rui possibly getting like 18 to 20. Now you're gonna have Rui that's 18 to 20. Forget. Let's say we don't even care about the tax. Genie's like, I'm not worried about the tax stuff. We want to bring the guys back. We don't want to make the same mistake that we did and do too much roster turnover, right?
Are you
Like
talking about the second apron? Is that what you mean?
no, even that. Let's say that doesn't even matter. Like the Lakers
Okay.
they're not worried about the second apron right now because to qualify for the second apron, you've got to have like multiple years of being above the second apron. So let's
Okay.
just say they're not worried about that. But like the financial part of it and whether you start is a real issue in basketball. Like this is a basketball you can't pay. I think Gilbert Arenas said it on his show. Shout out to Gilbert. Shout out to Trevor. Shout out to Josiah. All those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really great folks. You pay a guy a certain amount of money, you have to play him. He has to start for you. Like it's just like a blanket thing that works in the league. And like if you pay him 25, he has to start. Now you have Austin and him in the backcourt, but now Rui's getting 20. So Rui has to start, like if you're not going to start him. But now, like that's when things get really dicey with these conversations. And the Lakers aren't the Clippers, right? They don't necessarily have like Ham can get buy-in from everybody. He's not worried about it. But you have that, and let's say you bring Lonnie back or you bring Dennis back. How does the minutes conflict with those situations? So all that stuff gets dicey. Max Christie looks like he's ready for like 15 to 20 minutes a game, at least as a defensive 3-and-D guy. Like he's very capable of it. Like so we don't know how that sort of stuff looks. And it's a much more complex situation when it comes to it. You can't bring. I don't even think D'Lo would agree to come off the bench. Let me tell you that. I don't even think like him coming off the bench in Game 4 was like. It felt a lot like the Andre Drummond thing, honestly, to me. That like the moment they did that, it was just like, oh, you're gonna have to pay me now, or you're going to have to help me find a destination, which I don't think is as big of a deal because when D'Lo was with Brooklyn and he had his All-Star season, they signed and traded him. It was a dual sign and trade for Kevin Durant. Right. He was happy as long as he got paid. He really didn't care. Like he got time. And the Warriors were okay with making that deal because they knew they were going to flip him like within, I think you have to wait like 2 months or something like that after the trade happens. I should know this because of the salary cap stuff, but pretty sure there's like a 2 to 6 month wait period. They immediately flipped him. Like the Warriors knew they were never going to keep him, and they flipped him for Andrew Wiggins, and that's the way the story has gone so far. So I think his agency is probably telling the Lakers, if we can't make this work here, we will find a place for him. We just need to make sure that you guys can. The other team that we work this deal out for it has players that you can bring back that you would find
doesn't hard cap.
Yeah, and so like that's the business of basketball. I think that's the reason why you're hearing so much about him being signed and traded to somebody else, like from actual writers. Like,
right.
I think CAA will find him a place. Like they found Julius Randle a place. New York gave Julius Randle an extension off of his All-NBA season. He had a terrible follow-up season, and then this season he's bounced back. So it's like CAA is the most powerful agency in basketball.
Yeah,
they'll find him a destination.
Then Randle had a terrible playoffs. I thought he was really bad in the postseason. No, and then D'Lo even, I don't know if you got to hear his full final exit interview, but he talked about he even brought up like, yeah, when they bench me, I didn't want to make it an issue because of where we're at in the season. Like,
right.
Well, I mean, so does that mean in the regular season you would have brought it up as but
right. Like there's like, oh look, honestly, like as a fan, like there's two ways you could read that, right? Like there's you can read that as I didn't really have a choice, and I'm not like it. Again, we've said that he's smart. He is hyper aware. He knows what it looks like if he says something otherwise, right? Like if he says, "Who am I being benched for? Like why am I being benched for this?" Like this was a thing. Yeah. Like it, and then obviously the sentiment completely turns on him. Then at that point, if he says something against the coaches. So it's just, I'd be very curious. He is definitely one of those guys. If we play that percentage game, like I'm genuinely like 50-50. I could see them bringing him back at like a number that maybe works reasonably for him, that makes him more tradable. And I could also
Yeah.
see him getting moved because not just because of the playoffs, but there's like this weird thing with him, like just his vibe. And then everybody does his celebration. That's cool and stuff like that. But it's like when the basketball stuff takes up too much of the good vibe stuff, like again, we started this thing completely off with LeBron saying, I might be
Yeah.
done
It might
sooner
be
than
out.
you guys think.
Hmm.
And people have written, McMenamin has written, Jovan, friend of the show, for Jovan has written, like all these guys have written that like, well, Braun wants a point guard. He wants to just play off ball. Well,
Yeah.
can you rely on D'Lo for 65 games of being your heavy workload point guard? He hasn't shown it anywhere
Yeah.
since Brooklyn. So it's like, Braun. If Braun says I want a point guard, Fred VanVleet, Trae Young, Kyrie Irving, whoever it is that they're mentioning, like, like he might be telling us something indirectly.
Yeah, and I don't like any of those options, honestly. Like I don't like the pursuit of any of those options. I think would be a bad way to go. I'm not sure what D'Lo is. I think he played the most games he's played in a while last season as
Yeah,
well in the regular season. Who knows if that was contract as well? And again, I have sentimental reasons. I would like it to work out. Maybe it
for sure.
won't. We'll see. But I would like if I had a choice, I would like for D'Lo's game to work out. I think he gives comments where he gives a little too much information sometimes.
Right.
Sometimes I think it's just a little too much. If someone asks you after a series where you play like that, maybe just say a little bit like, yeah, maybe I can adjust one or two things. Like that.
Right.
Would like to hear that a little bit. And like to me, honestly, Renee, I think Darvin Ham would have benched D'Lo game 3 if it was
Yeah.
if it was
100%.
full choice. Like I
Yeah,
think that's
we discussed it on the back end. Like there was
yeah.
definitely politics involved. Like he couldn't do it. Like he had to give him a chance in LA and hopefully he bounced back, and it didn't happen.
Yeah, but I mean, I would have started third quarter at least. I would have gone to that because I think it was just hemorrhaging us. He had like a 3-minute stretch. I think it was in game 3. We were on our way back, and it was like missed shot, turnover to the corner on KCP, and then like also Denver just going right at him every possession. It's just not a good look, and I would have liked a little bit more, not remorse, but just a little bit of like self reflection there. But
Yeah.
I think he is who he is, and that player to me is still a productive guard. Now that's why I asked you, can he come off the bench? Because I think there's a world to me where we go get enough wings or whatever it is, to where maybe D'Lo does come off the bench, and maybe that's not what he wants right now. But we'll see. I think Austin's a starter. Obviously, LeBron and AD. Those other 2 spots are up for grabs. We'll see. I see Van Fleet. I can't do Fred. I can't. Fred Van Fleet, 30.
Yeah.
Also, what he's going to ask for. I mean, he turned down a 4-year, 110 extension, I think, from the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah.
You better hit that. Like, whatever that is. I don't like our other options there, which I think it goes back to like, I think we're just going to bring everyone back and then try to move them when we can.
Let me float a name for you. I just want to know, curious, and then we can end it on this. If the Milwaukee Bucks come up to you and say, okay, we'll sign and trade, we'll take a sign and trade for D'Lo, we're gonna send you back Drew Holiday, and like let's say D'Lo says, yeah, I'll sign for like $25 million a year, and they're willing to do that straight up. They have the 17th pick. Lakers have the 17th pick, and Milwaukee comes up to you and says, we'll give you Drew, you send us D'Angelo and the 17th pick. Would you do that?
Ooh, I would think very hard at that. So Drew is what? How old is he? Like 30?
30. I think he's about to turn 30.
He's 30. Okay, I'd probably do that. Drew Holiday, probably one of us. Yeah, he's 32. Yeah, I'd probably end up doing that. My question though, again, it's the same
he has
thing.
Familiarity with Anthony. He's played with Anthony Davis before.
No.
He was part of that team that knocked out Portland in the first round, if you remember, that lost to the Warriors.
No, 100%. My question is, again, it's a Dallas thing. It's like, why would Milwaukee do that? You know what I mean?
Fair.
Like you have Giannis trying to win. I mean, Giannis, I know he said the weird failure commentary, whatever that was, but like that dude is trying to win next,
Funny guy.
That just trying to win next season. Like you trade Drew Holiday for D'Angelo Russell, your team got worse. I love D'Angelo Russell as much as the next guy. Your team got worse if you traded D'Angelo Russell for Drew Holiday and the 17th pick, who's probably not going to help you next season. So I don't know why that would come up. It's why, again, all these like trades for guards. I know it's going to feel the content machine is hungry right now. It needs as many names as you can throw into his mouth. But I like Drew Holiday. I don't see why that would happen. Also, if Drew Holiday comes on the market, I think someone could beat that offer, right? Like, I think someone would put more on the table for Drew Holiday. What do you think? I think D'Lo and the 17 for Drew, who made the All-Star team this year, by the way, Drew Holiday, second time.
I think. What if Phoenix comes to you and says, "We'll swap you Chris Paul for D'Angelo Russell straight up"?
I know your answer to this, by the way. I would say
I'm just. These are not.
I'm sure these are conversations being had.
These are definitely. I can tell you for sure these are conversations being had.
100%. I would say no that either. Chris Paul is going to turn 48 next year. And he's hurt every single postseason consistently.
Yeah, for sure.
You have another team trying to win. If they're doing that deal with you, they know something you don't. I'm just I'm not. Correct. By the way, shout out Frank Vogel. By the way, getting the Phoenix job. What do you think about? By the way, what do you?
Okay, two things. I have two thoughts on that. He needs to get rid of his agent because Monty got $72 million from Detroit for the job they got, and then Frank took $31 million. And I was like, bro,
for 5 years,
you won a championship, bro. Like, what is going on here? Like, there's no way. Like, him taking a discount must be something. So happy for him as a person. Everything that literally I've ever heard about him is he's a really nice dude. Yep. Even the stuff that they were saying with him beefing with Russ, like I know for a fact that they were cordial with each other. It was a basketball issue, not a person to person issue like that. Yeah. He's a very nice guy. Him being in Phoenix is funny. I think I follow like 4 Phoenix fans. And
shout out Keith,
I don't think
Keith.
Yeah, I think he is a perfect example. He is a great coach for what they probably want, which is a defensive-minded head coach that won't get in the way of what the offensive players want to do. Good point. And I think that he is a perfect coach for that. I know they made that assistant coach, Kevin Young, like the most highest paid assistant coach. He's probably, in the weeds a little bit more on the offensive end. I think Monty being gone, I think Frank being there probably means it's the end of Chris Paul in a Suns uniform. Probably also means it's the end of DeAndre Ayton. I was having a discussion in a group chat. Vogel was able to win a championship. Granted, it was the bubble or whatever. Like, he was able to win it with a non-spacing center next to Anthony Davis, who is up and down as a jump shooter himself. And a non-spacing backcourt, and he won a championship that way. We did with Rajon Rondo the first year, which drove us absolutely crazy the year that he did it. And then obviously he did with Russ and Avery Bradley. Like, he ran Rondo and Avery Bradley, and then Russ and Avery Bradley the year prior, and then we had DeAndre Jordan the second year. Like, but he is the kind of guy that he is the kind of coach that, like, if the role players need to be coached to play defense correctly, and the offensive players just need to be allowed to do what they want to do, perfect coach for it. Championship pedigree, players coach, everybody loves him. The fact that the front office kind of picked his assistants for him, I thought was funny too as well. It's like, okay, this might be a Frank Vogel thing. Maybe it's not a Lakers thing specifically. Like, but good for him, man. Like, I'm glad that he got a job.
Just a quick answer here. Do you think Monty should have been fired in Phoenix? You gotta go long. I'm just curious because I think it goes into my.
I think Monty Williams really loves Chris Paul, and he implicitly trusts Chris Paul to run the offense. And I think for the Suns to succeed as a team, that was something that had to stop. And I think that's why Monty had to be let go.
But what? Okay, here's my pushback to that. All right, I've heard this. I've seen this. Vinay, was he gonna play campaign? Like, what? Where were they going? You know what I mean? Like, so I totally get it. Chris Paul didn't play after game 2 of the first round. Like, Monty Williams, I'm sure, has his flaws. he took that Suns that was in the bubble. I think that was his first year. They won
Yeah.
like 12 straight games or whatever it was, and then they still didn't qualify for the playoffs. Chris Paul comes there. He builds a system around Chris Paul, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton that's murdering teams in the
Yeah.
regular season. Absolutely murdering teams. They lose to Giannis, who had one of the best playoff performances maybe ever, 50 points, whatever.
Yeah.
Didn't miss from the free throw line. Next season, Chris Paul becomes old because he's freaking Chris Paul. And now Devin Booker is just raging through the season. And then they trade for Kevin Durant halfway. Kevin Durant gets hurt. We run through coaches so
Yes.
often that I'm like, we take a look back. I don't know if Frank Vogel is better than I love Frank Vogel. I think he got unfairly kicked out when
Sure.
maybe just here's the door, walk out on your own instead of like a kicking him in the back out, which I think was what happened. They're like, yeah, we're done with Frank Vogel. I I think he's a guy that needs the right personnel. Like
Yeah.
I don't think you can run his system with Campaign and Jock Landale. Like
For sure.
I'm
Absolutely
sorry.
not. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and I don't know if Phoenix has the tools to build the defense that he needs. So I think giving him a 5-year deal was a little like I thought Doc Rivers or Kevin Young was getting that job. I was convinced. I was like, I don't
Yeah.
think
I would have actually been shocked if Doc Rivers got that job because I don't. I won't say anything bad about Doc. I've actually talked to him before. He's a very nice guy, so I'm going to refrain from plead the fifth about him. Like I don't want to get in
yeah.
trouble. But yeah,
It's not from Doc's
yeah,
accolades or as good of a coach. It's just like guys like Doc Rivers don't stay out of the league. Like, Doc's been in
fair.
the league and he's had way more playoff flameouts than he did this year. But yeah, I thought that was just an interesting hire for Phoenix. Frank Vogel is just so safe is not the word. It's like
I'm
I feel
telling you. I'm telling you what it is. I'm not. I'm positive they wanted a guy who can play the right defense because the star players like Booker and KD are not like LeBron, right? Pointing out matchups like AD, like dude, what are you doing? Why are you rotating here? Like he yelled, "Ice, do this, do that." Blah, blah, blah. Like, they don't do that.
no,
They
they
want to
don't.
go out and hoop. They want to play basketball. They want to shoot. They want to get up and down the floor. They want to do their
Do you think
offense.
Frank Vogel is the coach for that? You know what I mean?
As long as he doesn't get in their way, that's all it is.
But like you watch Phoenix this year and think they need less structure. You know what I mean? Like I watched Phoenix this year. I'm like they need a more balanced system, and they just got a
Fair.
new like Matt Ishbia is being touted as this modern,
Yeah.
new face energy, and he goes with like I love Frank Vogel again. Like I think
Yeah.
Frank Vogel deserves a job in the league. I'm just like throwing Frank Vogel into title or bust like expectations. That's a lot for Frank Vogel. I'm sure is like how much 31 million? Oh, no one's offering me an assistant. Yeah, I'll take that. 5 years. Like, you're probably
Yeah.
gonna let me go after 2. Like, I'll be paid
Whatever.
for the
Yeah. I
final
don't
3,
even care.
whatever
Yeah.
it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just new ownership money. Like, I think we were talking about it privately. I think it's new ownership money. They're like, how many years you want? Frank
Yeah.
Vogel's like, I want 5. Here, 5 years done. 30 million? Yeah, 30 million. Frank Vogel knows he's not gonna be there for 5 years. Like, come on. Frank Vogel knows he's not there for 5 years. Like, that's a title or bust like mentality. And by the way, you mess up in the regular season next year, you might be done next year. Like that hire was so strange to me. Like I just did
Yeah.
not see that coming. And it's
It,
just I don't know.
it was definitely a surprise. But knowing what we kind of know behind the scenes, what was going on with Frank and the way he was sort of operating for the Lakers, like what his real role was, I think he's going to be more involved with whipping the role players into shape in terms of whoever that roster ends up being around KD and Booker. It's going to be about, how do we do our best to make their lives to maximize the amount of what they can do while we take the because you just think about the roster we had the first year we had with LeBron and AD. It was almost all defense. It was Avery Bradley, Rajon Rondo, Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee. KCP was our lone 3-and-D guy. Alex Caruso happened to be a guy who could hit threes at a decent clip, but he was really a defensive guy for the most part. Like Kuzma was like our sixth man. I guess I don't know if we like knew for sure he'd be a sixth man, but he was like our most productive offensive player off the bench. Like it was really just a defensive team. So I would not be surprised at all if that roster looks very different, very defensive minded role players, couple of maybe 3-and-D guys on that roster, like in the offseason. I don't think a lot of people have been saying that like they look like a team that's a very good candidate to send Chris Paul to a team that has a bunch of guys that are like unwanted contracts, like the Randall type of guys. Like they kind of sign deals that don't really look good, but they can be effective in smaller roles, defensive roles, the Aaron Gordon types. And so like maybe they send like DeAndre Ayton to a team that has like a bunch of, defensive specialist guys that fit better around KD and Book because they're going to shoot 30 times a game as it is. So
Yeah.
it's just that's what I think is going to happen. I think that's why they
Yeah.
hired Frank.
It's just, do you remember when we hired Frank Vogel? It was like first option was Ty Lue.
Yeah,
And that
we're
was
very
not
upset.
good.
Yeah,
Second option was funny enough, Monty Williams.
Monty
right?
Williams. Yeah,
Then third option was Frank Vogel, right? And it doesn't feel that way as much in Phoenix, but it feels like it was to me, Monty Williams is a good coach. I didn't see anything there where I was like, man, you gotta let that guy, you gotta burn that guy out
no,
of
for
your
sure, for
system.
sure.
I love Frank Vogel. I think he's a good coach. To me, that situation is so tenuous that like KD is not Anthony Davis at 26-year-old. You know what I mean?
No.
Like that's not what he is. Devin Booker is incredible. Is he LeBron from 2020? I don't know. I think he's scoring pretty well. I think he's incredible. I worry about that team defensively. Let's see who they get, but like we saw it. Like you can't just throw Frank Vogel schemes into any roster. Like, it's just not
For
how.
sure.
And Frank Vogel is very headstrong. He's like, I'm not changing what I do. Like,
Defensive principles. Yeah.
yeah, we're not switching this. Kevin Durant,
Yeah.
you're not switching.
Yeah.
You better drop coverage and get back to your big man.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So I'm interested to see how they run it. But I just want to give him a shout out. Shout out Frank Vogel. We'll be here forever for that 2020 run. I just came out of left field to me. A team that's so modern.
It was definitely
like,
a surprise hire. I didn't know he was like a finalist for that position.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Raj, we've covered everything. This is a new record. We've broken into 2 hours and 10 minutes on this pod. It was really good. I think it was a lot of lively discussion, very honest discussion about some of these guys. Obviously we don't know what direction things are going to go in. Summer League is coming up. The draft is coming up. You and I are both planning on being at Summer League. So I'm really looking forward to that. I hope we keep our pick. If it's not for somebody good, that's somebody that really helps. And I hope, we get a chance to watch Max Christie and whoever that 17th pick ends up being. I like the fact that we keep drafting guys that turn into impact guys. And that's why I really want to keep that pick. I think it's really important. But that's not going to stop Laker fans from throwing that pick and everybody else that they possibly can that's not LeBron and AD put into, the trade machine and the content machine that needs to be going on right now in the offseason. But as always, this was a lot of fun. This is going to be a long listen for the folks to hear it, but it's always enjoyable. After a long vacation and hiatus, we'll get back to a regular routine where we can discuss this. Hopefully Twitter figures out its Spaces issue so that people aren't forced to just watch this video. But as always, I appreciate it. We appreciate the folks that watch the videos, the folks that are in the chat, the folks that end up listening to this afterwards on the podcast feeds. We appreciate you all the time. It's been a great regular season. It was a great postseason, and we expect it to be, a productive offseason, stuff to talk about as we get our eyes on some of the guys that we're taking a look at in the draft. And, we'll just carry it over and just keep things moving along, because if you're like me and Raj, man, Lakers basketball is always on the back of our minds, even if we try to run away from it. So, we appreciate everybody. Raj, any last thoughts?
Oh, this was fun. Busy season coming soon. Draft coming, Summer League. Maybe we'll record a live Lakers detail from Vegas.
That'd be pretty fun. Yeah.
That'd be dope.
And if you come out to Summer League, like, dude, message Raj, message me. Like, we're not unapproachable.
No.
Like last time I went to Summer League, like people were like, "Hey, Vinay," I was just like, "Oh, I don't know who you are," and then it turns out it's like, "Oh, yeah, I listened to you on this." I'll be like, "Oh, dude, like nice meeting." And then we talk about Lakers stuff. Like, Laker fans can find stuff to talk about.
Say hi.
We'll be good. Yeah, definitely say what's up. But we'll definitely get back to doing this on the regular now that I'm back on back from vacation. So we appreciate the folks listening in, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Take it easy.
Peace.